idea? All right, good evening everyone, and welcome to tonight's council meeting. First of all, council would like to acknowledge the Bellarine people as the traditional owners of the lands, waterways, and incredible skies to meet on today. We pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging, and we acknowledge all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people who are part of the greater Geelong community today. Now, this meeting is being broadcast on the internet, and a recording of the meeting will be published on council's website. So my name is Trent Sullivan, and as the Mayor for the City of Greater Geelong, I will be chairing the April Council meeting tonight. I'd like to thank everybody who's attended tonight in person and all those who are coming in online as well. It is my pleasure to welcome you all here to the Port Arlington Parks Hall, a venue which has played such an important role during so many wonderful festival and events in this town, which has become very much renowned for. Just got a bit of feedback there. There we go. Whether it be the annual Port Arlington Mussel Festival, the National Celtic Folk Festival, or other community events, Port Arlington Parks Hall is a wonderful space for the community, and we're all delighted to be here tonight. It's also home to the Port Arlington Neighbourhood House, who do a fantastic job too. The Bellarine area continues to thrive, grow and develop in so many ways in incredible food and wine scene, world-class beaches, and some of the regions, indeed the countries, we believe, best golf courses. There's a lot to offer here in tourism, in lifestyle, and so we welcome everyone here who isn't a resident from the local Bellarine area, but we're all very passionate, those who are lucky enough of us to live here. As many of you know, councils are out and about here to hear from members of the local community, and there'll be regular sessions in the neighbourhood coming up as well, especially for neighbourhood conversations around the budget and whatnot, so I encourage you to keep an eye on the website for those sessions there. At those meetings, councils will provide updates to the community on some projects that are underway in their wards, as well as some that have been recently completed, and we'll do one of those for the Bellarine in a moment. There's plenty of exciting things the council has delivered across the Bellarine ward recently and in past years. So my fellow Bellarine councillors, being Jim Mason and Elise Wilkinson, will now be joining me in delivering our presentation. After that, we'll get to official question and submission time, and then we'll be moving on to the reports for the evening. So a big one for us right now is the North Bellarine Aquatic Centre, and of course the opening hours around that. In great news for all of us who love our aquatic centres, after listening carefully to feedback from residents on the proposed closure of the North Bellarine Aquatic Centre, Council did resolve to extend the season for another 2 months. The 50-metre outdoor pool will be open from Tuesday the 2nd of April to Friday the 31st of May on weekdays between 6 and 10, 3 and 6, and on Saturdays from 8 to 12. A report will be brought back to us in May to identify opportunities which will help us to enable to keep the facility, this much loved community facility, open ongoingly. Council was a proud funding partner of the NBAC, being $5.5 million to a centre that was designed to foster health, wellness and positivity for all. But Councillor Mason, we've been very busy with the Port Arlington Railway grant as well.
Thank you very much, Mayor Sullivan. As part of our 2023-24 Community Grants Program, we awarded $2.67 million to a range of community projects, including community gardens, sports lighting and others. One of the recipients of these grants was the Port Arlington Bayside Miniature Railway, who received $19,300 for the refurbishment and new infrastructure for improved operation. Community projects like these bring so much joy to locals and visitors alike, and we're so pleased to provide this important support. Over to you, Councillor Wilkinson.
You're looking very happy in that pic too, Jim. The next one's Leopold Tennis Pavilion redevelopment. So this is really exciting. The project is making strong progress. The new local playground has been constructed at the south end of Leopold Memorial Reserve and opened in March. Pleasingly, the former playground hasn't gone to waste. So it's been earmarked to be reinstalled in Angeles in the Philippines by the local Rotary and Lions Club. Work also continues on the new pavilion, which will feature a social space, kiosk kitchen, internal and external storage, female-friendly club amenities, including showers, toilets, an accessible public toilet, and an accessible car parking bay. So the upgrade was made possible thanks to the $1 million from Victorian Government Sports and Recreation 2022-2023 Local Community Sport and Recreation Projects Fund and $720,000 contributed by the City. St Leonard's Skate Park and Pavilion, Women in Community Life Awards, Wallington Redevelopment and Clifton Spring Bowls. It's all looking good.
All fantastic projects in our region. The next one is the St Leonard's Foreshore project, which we've recently delivered, which has been one of two fantastic projects in St Leonard's area. In February, we completed the St Leonard's Foreshore project thanks to funding which was provided by the Australian Federal Government through its Community Development Grants Program. And that was $430,000 towards that project. And it's a significant enhancement of that coastal area, providing residents and visitors with improved amenities and a much more enjoyable outdoor experience. So now boasts a range of features, including accessible paths, shade shelter, accessible barbecue and 5 picnic tables, double shower and foot wash, a new little change room, and new bins and enclosures with additional bins on the way. There's been tree planting, landscaping, path connections, and there'll be a drink fountain which will be installed soon as well. Notably, the new furniture is made out of recycled aluminium and is marine grade suited to withstand the coastal environment at St Leonard's. This sustainable approach very much aligns with our commitment to minimising waste creation and supporting long-term waste solutions. But it's not the only thing we've done in St Leonard's, is it, Councillor Mason?
No, there's many more things, and St Leonard's Skate Park upgrade is another thing that we're proud of. So last December, we also completed the St Leonard's Skate Park project. Key features include an expanded skate area, including mini ramp, quarter pipes, flat banks, rails and manual pad, a plaza and park features, new shelter and seating areas, an E&E hub smart pole and a drinking fountain. Stage 1 of the project was completed in February 2023 and included the demolition of the existing state park, as well as the installation of 2 basketball, futsal goals and 2 netball rings. The concept design for stage 2 was developed with local community input, including skaters. The $670,000 upgrade came about thanks to our contribution of $310,000 and $360,000 from the Victorian Government Community Sports Infrastructure Stimulus Program. Over to you, Councillor Wilkinson.
Next is a celebration for the Bellarine, but for the City of Greater Geelong more broadly. It really highlighted the women in community life and the incredible contribution that many women have made in our community. So our annual Women in Community Life Awards celebrate local women for their achievements in contributing to a fairer, more equitable community. The awards commenced in 2016 and continue to attract significant interest across the region to recognise women who lead in neighbourhood clubs, businesses or work to progress gender equity and human rights. So pictured here are the award winners. Unfortunately, Nikki Stanley, who was awarded the Women in Life Award for a First Nations woman, isn't pictured here. But Yvonne Parker, Women in Community Life Award for Climate Action. Bridie Coughlin, Women in Community Life Award for Economic Empowerment. Catherine Aston Morney, Women in Community Life for Education, Renee Lapierre, Women in Community Life for Human Rights, and Karen Todd, Women in Community Life Award for Leadership in Women's Health. So as a part of our work to progress gender equality and inclusion, the awards play a really important role, and it was a fantastic celebration.
Absolutely, it was a fantastic night. Another big project for us is the Wellington Recreation Reserve Pavilion. So those who tuned into our February council meeting, we resolved to apply for Victorian Government funding to help deliver community sports upgrades totalling more than $10.7 million in total. We did this by approving the submissions of applications to the Regional Community Sports Infrastructure Fund, and among those selected projects was $4.25 million to the All Abilities Pavilion at Wellington Reserve. Council also pre-committed $3.25 million in our upcoming 24-25 budget to support this project, with the remainder, if the application is successful, to come via the state's All Abilities Infrastructure funding stream. It remains imperative for Council to provide opportunities for competitive sport and other forms of recreation and fitness, as it does help better connect our community and creates a healthier community. This pavilion upgrade has the potential to reinvigorate the space at Wellington Reserve in a major way. We know the numbers are getting out there and participation are huge, but we have to enable that to be able to continue to thrive and to make sure residents get the best out of these facilities. Ultimately, sporting clubs should be for all, and modern all abilities pavilions at Wellington Reserve will be vital. That caters to the needs of everyone in the community. That's paramount. Further $50,000 will be sought from the state by its All Abilities Participation Funding Stream, which the new pavilion would enable us to be eligible for. And that will go towards helping users of the Wellington Reserve, being the Wellington Cricket Club and the Bellarine Bears Baseball Club, with their respective All Abilities programs. But we also, all Bellarine wards, had the pleasure of being at the opening of the Barwon Heads Boarding Club Pavilion. Councillor Mason.
Thanks, Mayor Sullivan. And last but absolutely not least, in February, we officially opened the upgraded Barwon Heads Bowling Club Pavilion, and that was after a long stretch. The $1.2 million upgrade project was made possible thanks to the Australian Government's funding contribution of $500,000, matched by an equal funding commitment by the City of Greater Geelong, as well as $200,000 from the Victorian Government. Features of the upgraded pavilion include a new social area, a kitchen, an office, storage space, and an outdoor undercover veranda for spectators. The redeveloped Barwon Heads Bowling Club will support the demands of the sporting and community groups using the precinct. And this upgrade will mean the club can recruit new members, not only from Barwon Heads, but from surrounding communities such as the rapidly developing Armstrong Creek. And that concludes our Bellarine Ward wrap. Thanks very much for your time.
Thank you, Councillor Mason. Thank you, Councillor Wilkinson. All right, moving on, councillors, I'll be asking for strict adherence to speaking time limits this evening. In terms of apologies and leaves of absence, we have an apology from Councillor Nelson. There's also multiple leaves of absence that have been requested. The first one is a leave of absence be granted to Councillor Harwood from the 5th of May to the 24th of May inclusive. Copy's going to move and seconder. Moved Councillor Maloney, seconded Councillor Wilkinson. All those in favour? Thank you. All those against? It's carried. That leave of absence be granted to Councillor Nelson from the 6th of May to the 24th of May, 2024 inclusive. Copies have a mover and a seconder for that. Moved Councillor Mason, seconded Councillor Contel. All those in favour? Thank you. That's passed. All those against? The item is carried. A leave of absence be amended for Councillor Maloney from the 6th of May to the 16th of May, 2024. Can I have a mover and a seconder for that? Moved Councillor Hathaway, seconded Councillor Mason. All those in favour? Thank you. All those against? The item is carried. All right, there's no other apologies or leaves of absence to be noted for this evening, so we will move forward. Declarations and conflict of interest. Councillors, are there any declarations of conflict of interest in relation to tonight's agenda? Councillor Contel.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I've got two, one being 2.11. One of the submitters to the tender is the CEO, and I sit on a forum with that individual. Also 2.12, a number of the submitters to the tender are customers of the business of which I am a director.
Thank you, Councillor Contel. Your conflicts are noted. If any other conflicts do arise throughout the evening, please make them known. Now, confirmation of minutes. May I please have a mover and a seconder to confirm the minutes from the council meeting held on the 26th of March 2024. Moved Councillor Hathaway, seconded Councillor Wilkinson. All those in favour? Thank you. All those against? The item is carried. Copies have a mover and seconder for the council meeting held on the 10th of April 2024. Moved Councillor Harwood, seconded Deputy Mayor Aiken. All those in favour? Thank you. All those against? The item is carried. All right, this takes us into public question and submission time. It is specifically available for questions and submissions rather than as a forum for discussion. In accordance with our policy, 45 minutes is set aside for question time, providing for each person to address the council for 3 minutes per question or submission, with no more than 2 questions asked or submissions made per person. A maximum time limit of 3 minutes applies to each question asked or submission made. And questions and submissions which are provided in writing prior to the council meeting will be considered first. After this, if time permits, members of the gallery will be given the opportunity to ask a question or make a submission. However, if it is in relation to an agenda item for tonight, councillors won't be able to provide you with an answer, as you'll be hearing us debate and discuss the issue shortly. For those who have pre-submitted questions but not present tonight, responses to your questions have been published on council's website and will also be emailed to you directly. It's also important to note that each councillor has read and considered the questions sent in. And for tonight's meeting, we've received 16 pre-submitted questions from community members. I'm now going to go through the entire list and read everyone's name and the topic that was submitted prior. That's for the public record. I'll then be inviting people to come up to speak to these items. So we have John Verikios, Pakenham Street, UDF. Julian Stowe, Eastern Gardens Parkland. Keel Long, CBD car parking. John Irvine, Children's Playground. Anne Proctor, Bellarine Bike Trails. Vicky Perrott, Cycling in Geelong. Heidi Hunt, Cycling in Geelong. Jeremy Klitzing, Cycling in Geelong. Joey Nikita, Social Equity Framework. Jean Nell, Urban Tree Forest Strategy. James Taylor, Councillor Code of Conduct. Charles Street, Lara Waste Incinerator. Sally Fisher, Social Housing. Vicky Ross, Purnell Road, Corio. Liz Bonner, Purnell Road, Corio. Stevie Quayle, Social Housing. May I please have a show of hands of everybody whose names I've just read out that are here this evening? Excellent, we've got a show out. All right, I'm now going to go through the list and invite everybody who, in that same order, to come up to speak. If people aren't here, as I said, their responses will be sent to them directly. All right, is John here? John Verkios. John? No, John's answer will be sent to him directly, as well as on the council website. Julian Stowe? Julian Stowe? Keel Long? Keel Long? John Irvine? John Irvine? Anne Proctor? Anne, there you are. Please come forward. The process coming forwards, I'll invite people to come down and have a seat at the table in front of here. Your time will be yours when you start speaking. I know it can seem a bit isolating out there in front of everybody, but it's perfectly relaxed. We're more than happy to be welcoming and hear your questions or submissions. And your time is yours when you start.
Thank you for the opportunity. I understand that all 3 local councillors support the aim of the Bellarine Bike Users Group that there should be an interconnected shared walking cycling trail round the Bellarine to promote residents' health and well-being and to generate year-round tourist income. Bearing in mind financial strictures at all levels of government, what concrete actions will you take to facilitate joint working between stakeholders, including governments, businesses and community groups, so that trails can be put on the ground within a specified timescale? Thank you.
Thank you for the question, Anne. The Council has a Shared Trails Master Plan, as you are familiar with, which identifies opportunities to improve and expand the Shared Trails network to enhance connectivity, to keep places where we live, learn, work and play. We actively seek external funding opportunities to help us further design priority projects in this master plan. However, to date, funding opportunities have been scarce. We are, however, about to put up our draft budget for consideration, which I hope you'll pay close attention to and hopefully find some reward in there. And it's really based on that funding which will enable us to move forwards and make these connections with other levels of government for further funding priority, hopefully, as well as the next council as well post the October elections. Pardon?
Can I come back on that or not?
Unfortunately, this isn't a forum back and forth for debate, but I think I believe we'll be in contact about this one regardless.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Anne. Vicky Perrott. How are you, Vicky?
I'm good, thank you, Mayor, and welcome councillors to beautiful Bellarine. I've got 2 questions for you tonight, but I'd first like to start by congratulating you on the new advocacy framework, and in particular the multifaceted approach that you've taken and the recognition of council's regional role as members of both the G21 Alliance and the Barwon Southwest Climate Alliance. It's really good to know that council is committed to and listening to and representing the community's views and needs to decision makers and policy makers, and that council aims to build strong, just, healthy and connected communities. For many years prior to COVID, the city coordinated regular meetings of a cycling infrastructure group that met to discuss road safety matters, current projects and future plans. Membership of this group included officers from the city's infrastructure area, Regional Roads Victoria, the Department of Transport, community representatives from cycling groups, bicycle users groups, community association and public health bodies. However, this group has not met since before COVID. Given the city's commitment to listening and its aspirations to encourage active travel and build healthy, connected communities, will the city re-establish a cycling or active travel reference body and facilitate regular meetings?
Yep, thank you for your question, Vicky. The city does plan to engage with all active transport user groups within our community as part of the development of the Integrated Transport Strategy. And upon adoption of this Integrated Transport Strategy, city officers will then review the terms of reference for the Cycling Infrastructure Advisory Group, which will ensure future meetings can align with the strategy's intent and reconnect thereafter. Outside of this, concerns regarding road safety matters can be reported to us via the channels on the website, and will then be appropriately assigned to officers to investigate as they come. So the good plan is that the organisation does have a plan to re-engage with active cycling groups. I think all councils are very keen to see the adoption of an integrated transport strategy, as are many members of the community. So I think we all very much look forward to seeing that come to fruition.
Thank you. My second question, as you say, relates back to the Shared Trail Master Plan, which you adopted in March 2020, and it committed to increase physical activity, health and wellbeing by improving connectivity to key places by addressing network gaps, and trail deficiencies. We have given you all a copy of the map which was produced with a council grant, and what it does show brilliantly is the lack of connectivity on the Bellarine between our two coastal trail and the Bellarine rail trail. There is a real disconnect. Visitors arriving by ferry in Port Arlington frequently ask, how can they get to the wineries? How can they get to Drysdale? How can they get to Queenscliff? We have very poor public transport on the Bellarine. Cycling is a good option, and particularly with the advent of e-bikes, those hills disappear. However, we don't have safe cycling routes, and you need to be a very brave and intrepid cyclist. We do have a number of the sealed roads on the Murray, Queenscliff and Port Arlington have narrow, overgrown shoulders suited to only very intrepid cyclists. And during the summer months, they become less safe because they're congested with hollymakers and many cars that are towing boats and caravans and trailers, and you don't want to get in the way of someone trying to get to the boat ramp. The Bellarine does have a lot of quieter, unsealed roads, like Grassy Point, Ibbotson Tower, Found, Anderson's, Old St Leonard's, Manifold, etc. They could provide safer connections if they were regularly graded and had sensible speed limits. So my question is, will council arrange for officers to meet with the Bellarine bug reps to consider short-term, low-cost options, and in its upcoming budget, will council allocate funds to rectify deficiencies identified in the Shared Trails Master Plan on the Bellarine?
Yep, absolutely. So officers will happily contact you and arrange a meeting, discuss with your group, to discuss your request, maintenance, speed changes, everything that is required on the Bellarine, and to get some more information to investigate your request for local roads. As someone who cycles around here myself, and I know I've got a few other cyclists on the council here, we're all keen to see this infrastructure improve, especially with how we can not only improve the health and safety of people's lives, but show off the magnificent countryside we have here in the Bellarine. Again, in the draft budget will be put up as first item on the agenda, so I can't actually comment on funding allocations until then, but I do hope you'll look through it closely and hopefully find what you're looking for.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Vicky. Heidi Hunt. Yep, you're allowed to, absolutely. We're all liking the involvement in local democracy here.
Hi. As some of the Ballarine's newest residents, we've been here 5 months. We are an active family, active transport family. But for us, unfortunately, the most direct route from where we live in Curlewis to Drysdale School is probably quite dangerous for both cyclists and pedestrians because, as you can see, she's a minor, so we can ride on a footpath if it's safe. The ride to school route along Caroline Drive, which would take you up through towards Drysdale Public School and Christian College, is actually all road, and during school zone times it's really busy with traffic, so it can be quite dangerous for a child this age. The ring road is another option, but unfortunately as a 10-year-old, a 40-minute each way ride to school is a bit too far for us. And when we come off the ring road, we have to go up Collins Street where there's no shoulder or footpath on the direction going to school, and coming back there's a section from Bennett Street to Drake Road again, which is quite busy on Collins Street where there's no shoulder. Our safest route that we've found is coming from where we live in Curlewis on the rail trail to Connors Road, which is a really groovy gravel road. We get up onto Wynyard Street and we can pick up the footpath and go Barrett's Lane, Nash Avenue, and then left into Clifton Springs Road. And then when we hit Bennett Street, unfortunately it's a big, nice, wide road, but unfortunately it's a bit like that other road where it's really busy with school traffic. There is some really good nature strip there, but it's quite dense and lush, so it's really hard pedalling, but we do it. But what we'd like to know is how is the council going to improve riding safety to school from Curlewis to Christian College Geelong Bellarine campus? We have actually spoken with Alison Marchant, the local state member, and she mentioned that the local council can apply for a TAC grant aimed at this specific style of infrastructure. So,
Yep, absolutely. Thank you for your question, Heidi. And could I ask for the name of your co-submitter as well?
Annabelle.
Welcome, Annabelle. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for your question from both of you. So city officers will connect with Christian College Bellarine campus and offer to undertake safe route to school assessment,
Yep.
which identifies the main areas students are travelling from and to, being the school itself, and then provide preferred designated travel routes to the school.
Yep.
Such assessments do take into consideration road traffic volumes and speeds, and also consider the safest crossing locations along routes. Such assessments are important because they identify potential upgrade locations for crossings or road markings for safer cycling, acknowledging the lack of footpath connectivity that we do have in our area, being a rural, a coastal settlement that we are. The city does often apply to the TSC for grants to help us deliver road safe infrastructure. The criteria for these grants is generally aligned to improving safety for pedestrians and cyclists in the form of new pedestrian crossings or intersection treatments. Officers will investigate your request and review if there are any upcoming TSC grants which we are eligible to apply for. This sounds like a space which we'll be constantly looking for ways to improve in.
Yeah. Will they be able to come back? I'm happy if council want to come back and talk further one-on-one with us as well.
If they got your contact information.
And stuff like that, we'd be more than happy as well to be approached about it.
Excellent.
Thank you very
Heidi.
much, Mayor.
Thank you, Annabelle.
Council.
All right, Jeremy Klitzing. How are you, Jeremy?
Very good, thank you, Trent. Good evening, councillors. My first question is, cycling contributed some $17 billion and 60,000 jobs, full-time equivalent jobs, to the Australian economy in 2023. The Queensland Department of Transport and Main Roads found that for every dollar invested in cycling infrastructure, there was a $5 return in economic benefits. Cycling is a serious business. What is the council doing to attract and increase cycling in the Greater Geelong local government area and the Bellarine Peninsula in particular?
Yeah, thanks for your questions, Jeremy. There's some great stats there. So the city does continue to promote cycling assets in the region, mostly being the Bellarine Rail Trail and the Yuyangs mountain bike paths there that bring many tourists in. But we certainly appreciate the value that cycling brings to the economy. As you know, some of the largest events we have in our region are the Cadell Evans Road Race and the Ironman 70.3 as well, which we love because it gets people on the roads and we get to display the road network that we have here. But we do need to improve it. We hope to add cycling assets in the region throughout the Shared Trails Master Plan, but really that should be the first step of many, we believe, going forwards.
Excellent. My second question, which goes to the Shared Trail Master Plan, cycling is one of the most exciting and fastest growing parts of the tourist industry, but riders must feel safe for this to flourish. The council has approved the Shared Trails Master Plan that fills the gaps between trails on the Bellarine. Needless to say, delivering the plan would be a boon to cycling in the local region. Port Arlington is a significant gateway for tourists, including cyclists, to the northern Bellarine, and the cluster of wineries up towards Drysdale is a great attraction. However, the road's not safe for many cyclists, as several people have said tonight. A shared trail from Ramblers Way to Beacon Point would be safer for all levels of cyclists and be a much more attractive route than along the Port Arlington Road. I note, and each of the councillors has a page put in front of them, which is a map that includes that there's Crown land already covering about halfway between Ramblers Way and McAdams Lane, which part of it's washed away, but I recognise that. But that would make things simpler. Is the council, my question is the council considering the Port Arlington, Clifton Springs, Drysdale shared trail as a priority within the Shared Trails Master Plan? And given the advantages of the coastal route, is that the preferred option?
Yeah, thank you, Jeremy. So a coastal route shared path has been identified as a priority in the Shared Trails Master Plan that provides a tourism and connectivity benefit to the community. The city has completed the initial feasibility study for this Drysdale to Port Arlington shared trail, The study looked at potential options for the trail, including assessing environmental values, land acquisitions, cost of construction, and impact on adjoining neighbours. Further detailed design is required to determine the feasibility of this route, and so there is current land acquisition required, as well as environmental overlays to be considered. However, I do believe that the initial priority for this one was closer to the main road, as opposed to closer to the northern-facing land on the bay. So we want to make sure that it is in the right location and will provide the benefits that we want for the community and, you know, the local economy as well. So I do hope you'll look closely at the draft budget which is being proposed tonight. And again, as I've said to the other cyclists, I do hope you'll find what you see.
I will look at it with fascination. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. All right. Joey Nikita. I hope I'm saying that right. Is Joey here this evening? If not, Jean-Nel? Is Jean-Nel here this evening? James Taylor. There you are, James. I'm well, thank you. Yourself?
Pretty good, thanks.
Excellent.
I might start with my second question first, if that's
Oh, here we go.
acceptable. Most governments around Australia have introduced measures to assist their constituents in dealing with the current cost of living pressures faced throughout Australia. What such measures have been taken by the City of Greater Geelong, if any? Does the proposed imposition of a special rate of almost $80,000 on my home in Port Arlington demonstrate Council's approach to the cost of living crisis, treating constituents as an unlimited cash resource?
Yep, thanks for your question, James. So should the special charge scheme be adopted, landowners will be able to discuss a range of payment options to assist, as Council is acutely aware of the cost of living pressures being faced by many members of our community. We also have general hardship policies which apply for rate payments and whatnot.
Thank you. And what measures has the City of Geelong adopted to deal with the cost of living crisis?
Well, they were ones which we had adopted, especially during COVID going forth. We really implemented our financial hardship policy, which is something that has only been strengthened since then.
So, none.
No, that's literally the title of the payment I said, the program.
All right.
You can look it up on Council's website.
I beg your pardon?
You can look it up on Council's website for
I'll
further
do that.
information.
Okay. Second question. At the Council meeting on the 26th of March this year, issues were raised by the public regarding the inaccuracy of material included in the Council meeting agenda regarding the motion to declare a special rate for the sealing of Park Street in Port Arlington. The issues were noted by some councillors and were said to be only alleged errors by the propounder of the motion. The errors raised by the public in a meeting like this were apparent on a careful reading of the agenda material. The issues raised were disregarded by all councillors, and every one of the 11 council members present proceeded to vote relying on the erroneous information in the agenda. How does this blatant disregard for the inaccuracy of the material before Council and proceeding to vote on a motion in the knowledge that the only information relied upon is suspect or wrong, accord with the Councillor Code of Conduct, which inter alia requires members of Council A, to diligently use Council processes to become informed about matters which are subject to Council decisions, B, to seek to expand their knowledge and understanding of issues before making decisions, C, to read all appropriate documentation prior to engaging in debate and decision making, D, to observe the principles of good governance and to act with integrity, and E, to exercise reasonable care and diligence. Did every single councillor fail to comply with their obligations under the Code of Conduct in dealing with that motion?
Yeah, thank you for your question, James. I'll go to the Executive Director of Corporate Services, Troy Edwards, for the response in this one.
Through you, Mr Mayor. Thanks for your question, James. The resolution made by Council on the 26th of March Council meeting declared the intention to declare a special charge scheme to partially fund the road construction and sealing of Park Street, Port Arlington. Council has made this decision in accordance with the information provided by city officers and in compliance with their councillor obligations. The intention to declare motion did not restrict future amendments to the report, and that the community will be given an opportunity to have their views further heard through the submission period. Council resolved to continue with the special charge scheme processing, enabling the community to make submissions and have their views heard before any further decision is made. The special rate and charge is open for public submission, closing Monday the 20th of May 2024, and requires 50% support from property owners for the scheme to proceed. The error indicated in your March submission related to supporting documentation that did not affect the final recommendation as proposed by officers. The measure of apportionment as provided by officers remains the most equitable apportionment method.
Thank you, Executive Director Edwards. Thank you, James.
Thank you.
Charles Street. Ooh, it looks like Charles may have a proxy.
Evening, everyone. Yes, so for the public record, my name's Angela Carr and I will be Charles's proxy as a fellow Say No to Lara Incinerator campaigner. So I'll just read Charles's question as it's written. We know that Council has been interested in writing again to the Planning Minister regarding community concerns about the EPA-approved Lara Waste Incinerator. We are grateful that Council is maintaining an interest in this proposal. Is Council able to provide us with an update on its representations to the state government on that matter? Is there any information that we can provide to Council which could assist Council in that endeavour?
Yep, absolutely. Thank you, Angela, and thank you, Charles. So we do continue to raise our concerns with our MPs from the state level and wider MPs as well from the federal too. And a second letter to the Minister for Planning has been drafted, put together, and is currently for consideration with the Council group, which we finally signed off and sent to the Minister as well. Officers would also like to invite yourself, Angela, and Charles to work in now to further hear concerns and understand if it's out of the way so we can be of assistance and keep moving in the general direction.
Okay, thank you. We appreciate that.
Thank you, Angela. Sally Fisher. Sally here tonight? Vicky Ross. Vicky Ross here? Liz Bonner. Is Liz here tonight? Steve Quayle. Steve Quayle here? Ladies and gentlemen, that's the end of all our pre-submitted questions. Anybody who was not here, as I've said, they had a response sent directly to them and they are published on the Council's website. Is there anyone here who would like to ask a question from the floor? We may not be able to give a detailed response, but we can record your questions and get a response to you. Yeah, please.
Hi, Kate Lockhart from Drysdale.
Welcome, Kate.
I just wanted to support the question in regards to the safe travel from Curlewis to Christian College. Drysdale Primary School has been on the Bellarine for 140 years and it does not have a footpath all around it, which I find extraordinary. Heidi mentioned Corallan Avenue. It's a key safe route from Wyndham Street through to Drysdale Primary School and then subsequently across Drysdale Primary School to Christian College. It doesn't have a pathway on either side of the street. It's true that you can get from the post office to Drysdale Primary School on one side of the street, but not on both sides. So I strongly encourage your support for making safe travel to school. So that wasn't really a question, it was a few statements.
It's a submission. It's question and submission time, so we accept your submission and thank you for your advocacy, Kate. Any other questions or submissions on the floor? If not, I'll call an end to public question and submission time. Now, before we head into section 2 of reports, would councillors like Councillor Cadwell.
Microphone working? Thank you. Would you mind if I just responded to a question that was submitted, but the questioner wasn't able to attend, from former councillor Jock Irvine?
If they haven't been, tabled to the floor, then we can't really respond to them. But I'm sure any public statements via your own personal channels might suffice.
Sorry,
It's,
what
it's
was
just
that?
an oddity that we haven't really before engaged and responded to questions that haven't actually been officially asked, so therefore it doesn't give us the capacity to respond directly to them during the meeting.
Okay, well, can
So
I
we'll
just
call
make
an
a
end.
statement in response to the intent of the question, just to indicate...
I understand, Councillor Cabell, but the question hasn't actually been asked and hasn't been tabled by a member of the public, so then before we can't actually respond to it directly like that. So we'll continue on with the process and call an end to question and submission time. At the end of questions and submission time, we normally call a 5-minute recess. Would councillors like a 5-minute recess? Would you like to keep on going into section 2? Keep going? Recess? I'll call a 5-minute recess, as I've heard someone ask for that. We'll engage again at 7:20 p.m. Thank you. All right, I've asked if everyone could resume their seats within the next minute or so we can get things going again. All right, everybody, we'll get going with section 2 for the evening, which is reports. We have 12 reports to be considered in public, and I'll go up to the first one, which is one of the most exciting ones of the year. I'm sure many of us will agree, to endorse for exhibition the proposed 2024 to 25 to 27 to 28 budget. I have a mover in Councillor Harwood, thank you, and a seconder in Deputy Mayor Aiken. Councillor Harwood.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. We're recommending that Council endorse the public exhibition of the proposed 24-25 to 27-28 budget. What this document doesn't sort of show or doesn't portray as such is the work that's been done for the last 6 or 7 months, I guess, behind the scenes with the councillors coming together with our executive leadership team and our officers, and I guess trying to put together a budget that meets the community's needs. It has the community input embedded in the actual budget process and the actual final product, and it's been a long and tedious process. But we're hoping by putting it out on exhibition that we'll take the community feedback and what we are presenting, and we're hoping that that feedback will also help guide the final product. The budget represents a careful balance between meeting the needs of our rapidly growing community and maintaining the health of the council organisation. It's well documented. There's been a number of financial constraints and issues faced by council and the community in general. The cost of living being an obvious hot topic of discussion held widely through the community. We're bound to make decisions that are financially responsible and reflect the needs of the communities and the stakeholders we serve. So, in the proposed budget, you'll find a considered allocation of resources aimed at addressing the most pressing needs of our community, from infrastructure upgrades to social programs. There's been long and considered debate about how we will distribute the ratepayers' dollar. Sometimes contrary to community thinking that council doesn't do that. In actual fact, there are often many sleepless nights about the budget and how money is allocated and where it's going, and is it fair, is it equal, is it actually doing what it needs to do, which is to meet the needs of infrastructure, the needs for the growth, and making sure that we present our services. So there's about 127 services that council are currently involved in. Are we making sure that all those services are running at their peak for the community? Are they still the best services that we should be involved in? Are they giving value for money for the community? So there are extensive conversations, and they're not over yet. We'll be taking some feedback from the community. There'll be a submission panel review. So if those who wish to have their say on the proposed budget is to go on the council's website and follow the prompts there, and that's before the 24th of May, and those submissions will then be heard at a later date by a submissions panel. So I can't stress enough, if If people wish to have their input into the budget, now is the time to do it, and go online and have your say. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Harwood. Deputy Mayor Aiken.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Look, I actually always try to be authentic and realistic about my statements during budget period, and I actually try to use terminology that reflects what I think about the budget. And for this particular budget, I'm actually going to call it a sombre and testing budget. And why do I call it a sombre budget? Because the budget actually lays bare the difficult financial position that the council is operating under, and it actually shows that that's only going to continue for the next 4 years as well too. And I also use the term, why is this a testing budget? Well, this is actually a test of the financial credentials of our new CEO, Ali Wasty. This is going to be a real challenge for Ali to be able to deliver in the environment that we're operating with this particular budget. And so it will be a test of her financial credentials to the Geelong community in delivering this budget over the next 4 years. And why do I actually make those statements about the budget? Well, the reality is, if you look at our surpluses, they're wafer thin. The budget we're announcing tonight is a $2.1 million surplus, and then the next 4 years, the next 3 years after that, it actually decreases again to 1.9 to 1.1 and then $1.5 million. Now, we're a $672 million business, and we've only got a wafer thin margin in terms of our surplus, and all we actually need is one weather event in the city of Greater Geelong, and we're actually in deficit with our budget over the next 4 years. So that's why I actually believe it's sombre. You also look at our borrowings at the city of Greater Geelong. We've actually got $190 million worth of borrowings, and it actually plateaus at that level for the next 4 years as well too. So there's actually no reduction in the borrowings levels that the council is actually undertaking at the next 4 years as well too. So it's static. And that's a sombre message to the Geelong community about how we're managing their finances as well too. And I also look at our cash position as well too. We actually go from $177 million down to $134 million in a 12-month period with our cash holdings. That's actually a significant drop. That's over nearly a 25% drop in the way that we're managing our finances. And then the real challenge that the CEO has is that our wage costs and employee costs are actually well above our CPI and our expected rates associated from the state government. Next year alone, our employment costs are going up 5.5%. The following year, they're going up 3.75%. And the following year after that, they're going up 4.2%. That's well above the caps and what's been expected for local government to actually do as well too. And I should also point out a really sad one that's actually mentioned in the budget, which is why I'm talking about it sombre.
Deputy Mayor, that's your time limit. Can you please wrap up?
The last comment I'll make is that we actually talk about our waste diversion, and you actually look at the budget figures, we're going backwards. We have to report on what percentage of waste curbside collection is actually not going to landfill. And sadly, if you look at our budget figures, we're actually going backwards. Last year we were 53.21%. We're now expecting 52.32%, and then we're dropping back to 51.3%. So
Deputy Mayor, you're 30 seconds over, can you please? Thank you. Thank you for your time. Any councillors who wish to speak on the budget? Councillor Mason.
Thank you, Mayor Sullivan, and I fully endorse what's already been said. And I thank councillor officers and councillors for the hard work that they've already done. It certainly has been a very long and difficult task to try to meet all needs. And I'd just like to mention or acknowledge that there's a growing community understanding that we are in a climate and biodiversity emergency. And we will continue to plan for greater community preparedness, resilience, risk reduction and adaptation while we're trying to develop a circular economy. Those elements are in the budget. And at the same time, we've got $5 billion worth of assets, much of which is ageing and needs maintenance, upgrade and renewal. We have to give serious attention to that. And one of the fastest growing regional municipalities in the country, we also need so many more community facilities, including equity for female-friendly participation. And we're aware that the arts and culture sector hasn't fully recovered. So on the Bellarine, mindful of all of the above, we do want to see a preliminary design and costing of one new major shared trail between two of the four major towns, Ocean Grove, Drysdale, Port Arlington and Port Lonsdale. And we also have budgeted for the Ocean Grove bike track, the Drysdale Sporting Precinct, Devlin's Road Active Open Space Ports Pavilion, renewal for the potato shed and other projects. So I congratulate officers for the work that's been done and everyone else, and now we're waiting for community input as well before we make a final decision.
Thank you, Councillor Mason. Councillor Wilkinson.
Thank you very much. Just on that note of community engagement, it kicks off face-to-face this weekend. So if you would like to come and have a talk to us about budget, we will be in Ocean Grove and Drysdale on Saturday, and then on Sunday back down here in Port Arlington. So that's the Bellarine ward councillors, and I believe joined by Darren Schultz, the CFO. Thank you.
Councillor Murray.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and I too would like to thank the officers for the work that they have put in for this budget. It's never a great experience, as the councillors around the table might admit. It's long, it's drawn out, but we got there in the end to where we are now, and I thank them for their effort in preparation for this budget. And I too would like to endorse Councillor Wilkinson's comments about community input, and for the Bramble Ward constituents, the Bramble Ward councillors will be at Bellarine Village at 9 a.m. This Saturday morning, 9 till 10, and then outside Geelong West Town Hall between 11 and 12. So we welcome everyone who wishes to discuss anything, in fact, but particularly budget. And I'm particularly chuffed too about one item that's in the budget, and that's the Chilwell Community Library expansion. So well overdue, and I'm sure there'll be some happy ladies glad to see that in the budget. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Murray. Councillor Cadwell.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'm particularly excited about the funding in this budget for some really important local projects that I've been advocating for in my community. In particular, 3 projects I'll just mention briefly. The Aldershot Reserve, which will allow us to upgrade and relocate the playground to be closer to the car park, and also install a much needed toilet. We'll be implementing hopefully the next stage in the master plan, which will include a play space, a pump track, fitness station and new and improved walking tracks. Secondly, we'll be hopefully funding the Thompson Football and Netball and Thompson Cricket Club, which will have their projects supported, including upgrades to the lighting on their first oval and lighting on their second oval to training standard, and implementing new training cricket nets and wickets, and upgrades to the netball courts, as well as shelters for both the cricketers and the netballers. And also some upgrades to playground facilities, which are also really important. And thirdly, the East Geelong Football and Netball Club, which will be funded with new lights and shelters at their existing netball court, and football safety netting, which will be behind the goals. So I also support the draft budget for 2024-25 going out for public consultation, and really look forward to receiving and hearing and reading the public submissions when they do come in. And just to reiterate, the deadline is the 24th of May, so please, if you've got any interest in making a submission to council, do so. And also give a plug for the Brownbill Ward consultation. In particular, I'll be down at the Bellarine Village Newcombe shops between 9 and 10 a.m, so anyone who's a 3219 resident should come along and have a chat to me. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cadwell. Councillor Hathaway.
We're on. Okay. Thank you, Mr Mayor. Yes, I guess would like to emphasise to the community that what council are voting on tonight is to put a draft budget out to the community for review. So we're not voting to endorse the budget tonight. I think from what I've observed over the last 6 months is every councillor genuinely advocating the best they can for their community across a range of projects and services, and we've all done what we can over the last period, but I think from here on in is the most important part of this process, which is going to the community and getting that feedback. To give a plug for the Windermere Ward community consultation, the Deputy Mayor and I will be out on Saturday the 11th of May, 9 a.m. at Corio Village and 11 a.m. at Lara Village Shopping Centre. So I would really encourage residents to come along, have a coffee and have a chat about the budget and their priorities that they like to see out in the north. To engage in the submissions process, I think council certainly heard the community loud and clear last year around what residents value in terms of libraries and services. Those expectations have been set really high. Hopefully we can meet those this year. But yeah, I just think it would really important for the community not just to sort of to get loud or raise up where services are under threat, but to engage at a high level with your council at all times. So please take the opportunity over the next few weeks.
Thank you, Councillor Hathaway. Councillor Maloney.
Hello. Oh, goodness me. Thank you, Mayor Sullivan, and thank you to my fellow councillors who've commented on this draft budget. I just wanted to echo the sentiments of Sarah regarding, contact us, let us know if you have a bug to bear with the budget. These are trying times, and as a few people have alluded to earlier, the cost of living are increasing. I think this is a bit of a global Ponzi scheme that's going on to squeeze all the money out of us, perhaps. It's a real tragedy, but a lot of people are doing it really tough, and our council budget is indicative of our financial sustainability commitment to the community. We need to make sure that what we're doing is sustainable and equitable. And if you have a look at page 12, it has a breakdown of where our money goes. So it's a little bit more than roads, rates and rubbish. There's a lot of services that we offer. And it is important for us to avoid apathy. It's easy to turn the channel. It's easy to, turn the page and look the other way. But this is our community, and we need to be informed as to what you want. And if you don't tell us, then we assume that it's okay. So it would be really amazing to get a lot more engagement. This is, for some of us, we might not get elected again. So this is our last budget, perhaps. We want to make sure we get it right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Maloney. Any other councillors wish to speak? Councillor Contal.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I guess further to Councillor Aitken's comments that notwithstanding the challenge in managing the expenses and the budget, there's also a significant amount of work in delivering on the capital side of the budget, and there's some $700 million worth of capital works, and it's pleasing to see that we have some 13 odd million just in footpaths alone. There's 11 million on just the sealing of asphalt roads, and a further 9 odd million on drainage, which many people would see as our core business. So delivering on the capital budget, or the capital aspect of the budget, is a significant body of work to deliver in 12 months. So we've got a bit of work to get done there. And if we don't, equally it has impacts for the whole of life performance of those assets. Of some excitement to me is that whilst it's only a small amount of funding in comparison to the total budget, is that the council are putting forward to cut fees and charges by 50% for all alfresco dining. And I know that hospitality operators will be pleased with that news, given the recovery from COVID is still occurring, and also now that we're heading into the colder months. I think that will help hospitality operators throughout Geelong. And also, again, whilst a small cohort of individuals, but they provide a lot of pleasure and entertainment to all of us here in Geelong, is that we are cutting fees and charges by 50% for all buskers in Geelong as well. And I thank the individual, I can't recall who it was, that asked that question of us at a recent council meeting, because it certainly got us thinking about it, and I'm glad that we've been able to at least put that forward for consideration in this draft budget. And then the last couple is just the $1 million that we've put in the budget to start to progress and commence the master plan initiatives at Myers Reserve in Bellpost Hill, and also the 200,000 to support the recent funding application for $1.5 million for Hamlin Park and the female-friendly change rooms. So just a couple that I wanted to mention.
Thank you very much, Councillor Gontel. I'll say a few words before I throw back to Councillor Harwood to close. I'm feeling very positive about this budget. And I'd like to thank the council group, the CEO, the executive directors, the CFO, Darren Schultz, the entire finance team, and all officers who helped put this together. This is a substantial budget, over $600 million, over $5 billion worth of assets to manage. We are a core, we are a service provider, and we are an asset manager on these scales. And forming a budget like that takes many long sessions and many late nights. So I'd like to thank everybody who had involvement in this. We all recognise that we're operating under a tough financial environment, but we've operated for a budgeting surplus of just $2 million on over $600 million of a budget, which means that most of the money coming back in, we are reinvesting it directly into our community while aiming for a financially savvy slight surplus. So this means we're investing in our facilities, over $210 million in capital projects. This is what we all need in a growing community. There is something for everyone in this budget, which I'm incredibly proud of. The capital projects are always an area of interest, and councils have mentioned many already. But we're upgrading sporting facilities, community centres, playgrounds, reserves, projects which had to be halted are now relisted in this budget as well. So we're fulfilling our promises that projects which unfortunately had to be paused last year are now back on the table and they are getting funded. We're seeing strong levels of funding for environmental initiatives. As Councillor Contel said, strong support for hospitality as well in still what is a post-COVID environment. Excellent support for the arts and culture venues. An incredible increase in the amount of funding for our libraries as well, with new ones coming on board. But we understand the pressures that people are experiencing during the cost of living crisis. And our rates and revenue strategy does show that for in City of Great Geelong, we aim to be in the middle ground when it comes to our rates. We're the cheapest of all the rates of all the municipalities around us in that, and we aim to be so. But we aim to be a high-performing council, one that gets value for the ratepayer's dollar, and that's what I believe this budget does propose. As people have said, this budget is out for community consultation, and we're all very proud that we're the one level of government that actually puts the budget out there for feedback before it comes back to the chamber. The state and federal governments don't do that, but we do that here. As me talking as Mayor for the wider municipality, I'm very proud to see some Bellarine ward projects in here, the Ocean Grove bike track, Drysdale Sporting Precinct, Bellarine Shared Trails, Devlin Road, Leopold Sports Precinct, Portlongton Recreation Reserve, Drysdale Landfill. There's so many great things in here. Really encourage everybody to go through the draft budget when you can. This is, as I said, this is the most exciting night of the year for me. I love getting this out here and seeing what the plan for our community is. And with that, I'll hand it over back to Councillor Harwood to close.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It was touched on in relation to, we can't predict the future, what may occur next 12 months or to next few years, but so we do have a very thin margin of a potential surplus in the budget, but history tells us that there's always things that go pear-shaped, and we need to react to them quickly and in line with community expectations. So I guess we make that kind of rider on our budget that we have to make hard decisions while they get done. And just want to thank the patience of a lot of community organisations. Again, we're doing a bit of catch-up in a few areas. Chula Library is a good example. Female-friendly change rooms to increase female participation in sport is finally getting some serious traction, and that's been a number of years in the making. And again, it reinforces that this particular councillor does have a very, very strong connection through and deep in the community, and we do try and provide for everybody and in every case. A final comment is in relation to the leadership of Darren Schultz and his team, and in particular Sean Owens. They have really, I guess, guided us through the particular paths of the budget, the good, the bad and the ugly. There's plenty of ugly, but I think now the dust is settling after COVID and a tough year or two in the past, that this council is now coming out into a very strong financial position, and the future is looking very strong, and that means that we will continue to provide the necessary services at a quality level for the community, and also continue the required infrastructure build. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Harwood. With that, put to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. All those against? The item is carried. On to number 2, Neighbourhood Amenity Local Law 2024. Moved by Councillor Mason, seconded by Councillor Cadwell. Councillor Mason.
Thank you, Mayor Sullivan. The current Neighbourhood Amenity Local Law 2014 is due to expire on the 10th of December this year, and we're obliged to review and update it. Mr Mayor, these local laws cover such things as property, animals, waste collection, vehicles and stock movement, business and builders, alcohol and smoking, reserves, buildings, permits and penalties, amongst other things. Concurrently, we're obliged to comply with current legislation, regulations and acts, and the Charter of Human Rights and Responsibilities Act 2006. In light of this, Mr Mayor, the community engagement was undertaken between June 23 and February 24, and a community engagement analysis lies within this report. There were workshops with internal staff, external agencies, council advisory bodies and councillors, and they were held in January and February this year. The main feedback themes included updating terminology, improving definitions, clarifying and simplifying, and future-proof wording. For example, Clause 74 has been amended to include the provision of unisex facilities. Clause 29 has been amended to include time restrictions for the use of motorbikes and motorised recreational vehicles other than on farms outside of built-up areas. Clause 50 has been amended to include a separate subclause to restrict times for carrying out building works on a residential building site. Maximum penalty units allocated to each offence have not been amended, with the exception of Clause 50, subclause 4, which is associated with demolition work, and that's been increased from 15 units to a maximum of 20 units. So, Mr Mayor, the body of the local laws remains largely unchanged, and the recommendation is to release the draft for Stage 2 community engagement before being presented to Council in August this year for a final decision.
Excellent. Thank you, Councillor Mason. Councillor Cadwell.
Thank you. I don't really have too much to add to that feedback from Councillor Mason. Just to say that the current Neighbourhood Amenity Local Law of 2014 will expire on December the 10th of this year, and that'll be automatically revoked. Therefore, that's why a new local law needs to be adopted prior to this date, and that will be presented to Council at the August 2024 meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cadwell. Any other councillors to comment? Councillor Murray.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. It's really just to thank Alistair Miller and his team for the work they've done on this. They've certainly kept the councillor group informed as a group, and by ward and even individually, I think. So a big task and a job well done for the time and effort. So thanks to Alistair and his team.
Absolutely. All right. Back to you, Councillor Mason, to close.
Just the last word of thanks again to all involved. Nothing further to say, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. I'll put that to the vote then. All those in favour? Thank you. All those against? The item is carried. Item number 3 for the evening is the cat curfew review. Now, this is going to be originally moved by Councillor Wilkinson. Yep. And I will second the original motion. You speak to it, Councillor Wilkinson?
Mr. Mayor, I have an amendment to this motion.
What's your amendment, Councillor Mason?
Mr. Mayor, I've got a 4th point that I want to add, or we want to add. It requests the Chief Executive Officer monitors and then reviews the operation of the revised cat confinement order after 12 months of operation and reports back to Council on the findings of the review, noting the review should include the costs, education and communications undertaken and the compliance data.
All right, thank you. Do you have a second for this? Councillor Harwood? Thank you. So we have an alternative motion on the floor, which we'll now debate. We'll be debating point 4, not the entire substantive motion, but the alternative motion itself. Councillor Mason.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We've proposed this amendment to support the development of improved policies of the cat containment and control. This is to strengthen and support the original motion. Mr. Mayor, we're aware that compliance in some cases might be difficult to achieve. We may need more resources for education, special needs cases and enforcement, and there may be other measures which need extra funding. Mr. Mayor, after 1 year's operation, a future review will then identify weaknesses and should propose affordable and considered remedies. Mr. Mayor, we want this to be a living document, and we want this cat confinement order to be effective, and we think that a review is in the short term is the best insurance that we can have.
Thank you, Councillor Mason. Councillor Harwood.
Further to add, I think Councillor Mason's covered that quite clearly.
Thank you. Are there any councillors who wish to speak to the alternative? No councillors who wish to speak to the alternative. There's no right of reply to alternative, so I'll put that straight to the vote. All those who are in favour of adding point 4 here and adding that to the substantive motion. All those in favour? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep. All those against? Thank you. The alternative motion passes, meaning that point 4 is added to the subsequent motion, which was moved by Councillor Wilkin and myself. Councillor Wilkinson, are you willing to accept this as the substantive motion?
Yes, I am, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
As am I, thank you. Councillor Wilkinson, do you wish to speak?
Thank you. So, speaking on the whole motion now.
You're moving the entire motion.
Moving the entire motion. So this report recommends that Council note the findings of the Community Engagement Review of City of Greater Geelong cat curfew and adopts the revised cat confinement order requiring all cats within the municipality to be confined to their owner's premises at all times unless the cat is securely restrained. So some background, sort of the current cat curfew order enacted on the 1st of July 2009 requires owners of a cat to keep their cats securely confined to their premises at night time, sunset to sunrise. There was an engagement process over 2022 and 2025, and that identified wandering cats as an issue important to the community, both for their impact on neighbours and on the environment and wildlife. And so a key action of the Council's domestic animal management plan was to investigate the option of a 24-hour cat confinement as a tool to address these issues. So the biodiversity impacts of pet cats are serious and they really should be reduced. The effectiveness of a containment will vary depending on the success of communication, participation and enforcement, hence the recommendation for Council for a report in 12 months' time. The average roaming and hunting pet cat kills 186 mammals, birds and reptiles each year, including 115 native animals. This is not a cat issue though, it's a human issue. Our pets are really important to us. They're part of our family, they're important companions, and it's really important to protect them and the wildlife around. And this is a human issue that requires human intervention and cultural change. So the idea of looking after cats in the home prevents road accident trauma, possible poisoning, cats fighting. Of course, there will be a need for an enrichment in enhancing environment and exploring options for safely walking the cat, just like we do dogs. We don't open the front door and say, there you go, Fido, have a great day, and let our dog wander out the front door and see you when I get home from work. A nighttime curfew does reduce the killing of some animals, however, killing still takes place during the day. So research, say, for neighbourhoods close to Sherbrooke Forest, for example, in the Dandenongs, show that there was a reduced death of possums overnight, but an increased death of rare ground-dwelling birds during the day. I think this is challenging, this is cultural change, but it's an important step in the direction, and the idea of having this all monitored and reviewed in 12 months' time to see the progress is important.
Thank you, Councillor Wilkinson. You really have said it all. I do support myself this 24-hour cat curfew. As you said, we love our pets, they are important to us. However, it is well known that pet cats, feral cats are up there with foxes, which how much wildlife they do kill per annum. And it is incredibly inconsistent that every other, if you have a dog, guinea pig, rabbit, reptiles, miniature horse, I'm not sure what you have in your backyard, we always have to have them under effective control, not only for to make sure that society is safe, but for them as well. And the fact that this is the one animal which we currently open our doors to and just let roam the neighbourhood at large really doesn't make sense to me. Something that our fellow municipals around us, the local government areas have introduced. So I think it's time that we caught up and encouraged responsible cat ownership via this method. Opening the floor up to other councillors who wish to speak to this. Councillor Maloney.
Thank you for your words, Mayor Sullivan, and thank you to Councillor Wilkinson for that really great rendition of the statistics that are really quite alarming for our local native wildlife. I also think that is a human problem. Cats in their excrement have toxoplasmosis. For the constituents at home, that is a parasitic infection that can transmit to humans. And if you're mowing your lawn and some cat has decided to use it as a litter tray, then the ensuing dust could mean that it gets into your respiratory system and can cause pretty bad after effects, and you don't even know about it. I also think it's important that we don't impose our cat ownership on other people, which that can happen if your cat decides to jump into someone else's backyard, as I've recently witnessed with my neighbours as well. I think that a lot of the flack that has come our way about this is regarding control. A lot of constituents saying, don't tell me what to do. That's quite an interesting concept, because we're just trying to help people to ensure that their cats are not damaged when they cross the road and get skittled by a car. So I'm really pleased that this has come back through towards remediation and also extension of the 12 months of operation and review, just so that we can look at it again and see if this is effective. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Maloney. Councillor Cadwell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Look, I'm afraid that I can't support this recommendation as it stands. I did successfully defer the same item at the February Council meeting because I wanted more information and more time to try and address the significant concerns that I had about this change to Council's animal management approach. And yet pretty much the same report has come back to Council unchanged. Officers have told us that they require a direction from Council in order to make any changes, and I'd like to therefore foreshadow a further amendment if the item is successful tonight. I'm essentially not convinced that this report does serve the best interests of the Geelong community or that it will achieve any positive results. In fact, I'm concerned it might achieve the opposite. I'm still concerned about the lack of consideration about the significant impact of this quite severe change on our community and the additional burden on current registered cat owners who've already adapted to the existing enforcement regime, which is mandatory desexing, microchipping, registration and the current 12-hour cat curfew. There's a much heavier burden being placed on cat owners with low fixed incomes or in rental accommodation who may struggle to comply. For example, I've been advised that this could cost each cat owner anywhere from $700 to $2,000 to implement. And I know that many members of my community just absolutely cannot afford that. So I'm actually concerned that this could lead to dumping, surrendering and even euthanasia of cats. And if that occurs, it'll cost council even more money, placing a higher burden on groups like GORS, who are already struggling to keep up with demand, as well as being hugely detrimental on our community of registered cat owners and, of course, the cats themselves. So I have asked council to consider other options that could be provided. I've had some vague assurances that council will work with residents to achieve compliance, but I remain unconvinced about that. I'm bothered by the fact that, in my opinion, council didn't properly consult with registered cat owners, for instance, via council's annual cat registration renewal notice. And I do note that of the 2,352 responses to the 2021 consultation, which was 49.36% or 1,160 respondents, they were registered cat owners. But that's still less than 10% of the 10,575 registered cat owners in the City of Greater Geelong. I have been also advised that further consultation, which is what I was originally asking for, isn't affordable for council at this time. However, I note that the report provides an allocation of $5,000 for notification to registered cat owners once a decision is made. And I wonder if those funds could in fact have been allocated to the important consultation. I also note my concern about the lack of any additional resources for council's animal management unit to actually enforce this change and the additional burden that will be placed on those officers who are already also fully loaded. Further, the report doesn't do anything to address the issue of other wandering cats, feral cats, who are probably more likely to be the real culprits of destruction of wildlife. There's also insufficient and conflicting expert advice that further confinement will actually affect change. The RSPCA, Zoos Victoria and Animal Welfare Victoria hold contrasting views about a cat confinement.
Councillor Cabell, your allotted with 3 minutes. Please wrap up.
If I could just beg your indulgence just to finish, I am actually at the end of what I'd like to say.
Absolutely.
The Australian Pet Welfare Foundation provided alternatives around cat management, including targeted financial measures for low-income households, free or subsidised desexing programs, education programs with a focus on responsible pet ownership and incentives to owners who actually do comply. And I'd like to see those programs considered before we make wholesale changes to our cat confinement program. I have proposed some alternatives to council, including a trial period, explicit support measures implemented for cat-owning residents with low fixed incomes or in rental accommodation. I've been advised that these will not be entertained, and on that basis, I won't be supporting this recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cadwell. So just so to remember that you are foreshadowing if this motion is not successful, we have an alternative.
Yes.
Thank you. Councillor Mason.
Thanks, Mayor Sullivan. Mayor Sullivan, I believe officers have conducted a sound and comprehensive survey that indicated a significant majority of the population, 61.9%, support a 24-hour curfew. There's also overwhelming support from most individual suburbs. Only 3.82% of the population are cat owners, even though 49% were participants in this survey. Mr. Mayor, in a healthy democracy, we must always consider the rights of minorities, but these rights should not impinge on the rights of others. Indeed, Mr. Mayor, there's many respectable, scientific and well-documented reports on domestic cats and feral cats other than the ones mentioned by the pet, I forgot the name of it, the pet friendly associations. Some of these organisations, Mr Mayor, some of this information is found through Animal Welfare Victoria, Invasive Species Council, the Australian Conservation Foundation, the Feral Cat Task Force, the Australian Government, the Victorian Government, the RSPCA, Zoos Victoria and others. It's widely documented by the Australian and Victorian Government cat management strategies that cats must be contained. This is because many, but not all, are nuisance pests, often reported trespassing, fighting, spraying, defecating and killing wildlife. Mr Mayor, there's no one solution to this problem. We need an integrated approach. We need a coordinated municipal-wide approach, a culture change through education, soft diplomacy through monitoring and policing, where a punitive approach is of a last resort. That's why in this plan, council officers will use a first offence as an opportunity to further educate cat owners of responsible cat ownership and ways it may be able to achieve compliance with the confinement order. Further, there are many simple containment measures. Implementing a 24-hour confinement represents proactive, positive action towards reducing the impact of cats in neighbourhoods on the environment and wildlife within the municipality. And this approach integrates with the national and state policies of education, culture change and elimination of stray and feral cats. We do have a biodiversity crisis in Australia, and Australia is one of the worst countries for animal distinction. I do understand the companionship of a pet is extremely important for mental health of some owners, but most cat owners are responsible and already understand their pet should not be a threat to wildlife and healthy ecosystems and should not be a nuisance in the neighbourhood, and they must be contained.
Thank you, Councillor Mason. Any councillors? Councillor Hathaway.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So initially I intended to support this proposal on the basis of the environmental argument and wildlife protection. And then it occurred to me to wonder how locking up generally well cared for and fed domestic cats who are less likely than feral and semi-owned cats to attack wildlife was going to achieve any meaningful change when councillors have been advised by officers that there would be no additional allocation of resourcing for community education or enforcement of a curfew. To me, this seems like an exercise in appearing to do something whilst achieving very little, or in reality going backwards. In fact, in Yarra Ranges and Casey councils, a 24/7 cat curfew resulted in an increase in cat-related complaints, increases in cats impounded and increases in cats euthanased. RSPCA Australia has stated that overall councils with cat containment regulations have not been able to demonstrate any measurable reduction in cat complaints, cats wandering at large, following the introduction of such regulations. Conversely, the City of Banyule spent $60,000 on a free desexing program and saved $400,000 on cat impoundment costs alone, and saw a reduction in cats impounded, euthanased and cat-related complaints, all by over 60% respectively. Mandated cat containment perpetuates the failed trapped, adopt or kill approach by resulting in more stray cats being trapped, impounded and killed. A 24/7 cat curfew will not address all the issues that are caused by feral and semi-rural cats. In fact, I've heard in discussion tonight there continues to be conflating of issues caused by feral cats with domestic animals. I think it's become quite a confused debate. I do think there needs to be more discussion, and I'd like to see more exploration of other issues that would really get to the heart of concerns I resonate with about protecting wildlife. But as it stands, I will not be supporting the motion on the table tonight.
Thank you, Councillor Hathaway. Deputy Mayor Aiken.
Thank you very much, Mr Mayor. I actually wish to say I support the comments that are made by Councillor Cadwell and Councillor Hathaway in relation to this particular issue. If any, this may sound like it's trivial, but the reality is if any community held cats in higher esteem, it should be Geelong. I mean, our beloved Geelong Football Club is actually the home of the cat. Their mascot is the cats. And if any community in Australia puts cats at a high esteem, it should be Geelong. And I've actually listened to the debate about those who said why we have to have a curfew. And it sounded like we don't have a curfew. They've actually presented evidence to suggest that it's better if you do have a curfew for cats. It's far better for the wildlife. It is far better for management of the cats. We actually do have a curfew in Geelong. We actually have a nighttime curfew at the present time. And I actually think this is overreach to suggest that we do have to introduce a daytime curfew. And certainly what is the most impact for myself is that the community that I represent in the northern suburbs, you're actually creating a cost burden for them with the introduction of a daytime curfew. And I don't believe my community actually has an understanding of what's been suggested thus far by the council. And by that I mean, of the 10,000 registered cat owners in the city, only 1,000 of them actually participate in the engagement process. So there's 9,000, and I would be pretty confident a large percentage of that 9,000 actually come from the northern suburbs that I represent. And as a consequence, I actually don't believe that the justification has actually been presented why day curfew now we have to extend our existing night curfew. I don't think the argument has been met. And very importantly, there is nothing in this policy that actually addresses the feral cat concerns and the implications that are actually in our rural and our urban communities associated with feral cats. This is actually about taking domestic cats and actually making it harder for an owner to actually have the existence and love and care of a cat in Geelong. It is doing nothing about the feral cats that actually exist that are causing most of the concerns that have been raised tonight by other councillors.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Aiken. Councillor Murray.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'm not sure what I think about this one, to be quite honest. I thought I knew coming into this week, but the more I think about it, and I might declare a conflict of interest because I've got two cats. So I'm going to speak about Misty and Daisy. So Misty and Daisy sleep in at night, and we let them out in the morning to a little courtyard, and there they stay the whole day unless it rains, and they come back inside. But then they come back inside of a night time. So in effect, if this curfew comes in, it has no real effect on Misty and Daisy. But our neighbour's cat, Snow, beautiful cat, beautiful domesticated cat, it likes to wander up the footpath, lay on the footpath and greet everyone that walks past, including the postman. Now, if this curfew comes in, Snow is breaking the law. And, well, in fact, it's probably not Snow, it's probably the neighbours that are breaking the law because Snow likes to wander up the footpath. So how do we get Snow to stay inside? And how does the neighbour do that for Snow? That is a problem. And if this is supported tonight, this curfew, my neighbour is going to have a hell of a problem keeping Snow for not breaking the law. We have a neighbour over the back fence that keeps chooks, and that seems to attract mice on occasions. So any mice that seems to wander into our courtyard, our cats do what cats do. So they do it okay. And then, you know, we've been, I guess every councillor's been emailed and sent things about the do's for this curfew and against. And getting back to my neighbour, if that neighbour really wants to enforce and be a real law-abiding citizen, he would have to do something to his fence and at cost to keep Snow in. I'm not sure that's what we really want with the cat curfew. And I understand about the environment and the wildlife that these cats can incur. So, Mr Mayor, look, I'm at this stage still unsure, but they're the matters that are going through my mind to make a decision.
Thank you, Councillor Murray. I think we're all taking along with that story about the cats, so appreciate the image. Any other councillors wish to speak? This one? I'll throw back to Councillor Wilkinson to close.
Thank you. And just picking up from Councillor Hathaway and Councillor Cadwell's reference to feral cats, make no mistake, there is no conflating. Feral cats kill about 5 times more animals in the bush and the wild than pet cats. They're really difficult to contain. It's really challenging. And just much like rabbits, it takes a multi-pronged approach. But that does not mean we should wring our hands and say, oh, well, that's where all the damage is done, when we know that pet cats are also killing and causing significant impact to the biodiversity and wildlife within our communities. We can actually have an impact by managing our domestic cats in our community. It takes a mind shift, both for the environment and also for our cats being safe at home. So I ask that we consider the cat confinement order. It will come into effect on the 1st of November 2024 if it was successful, and that upon coming into force, the previous cat confinement order of the 1st July 2009 is revoked. And yes, we do have a cat curfew overnight, and yes, that has led to the reduced killing of animals overnight, but there are many more animals that exist and wander around our landscape during the day, whether it be small insects and lizards. All of these have an impact and have a role within our ecosystem. It's really important for us to start thinking about how we connect globally with all creatures in our world. So I will leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wilkinson, for all creatures great and small, and I'll put this to the vote. All those in favour of the motion? There's 5 votes in favour. All those against? 5. So that's 5-5. That leaves me as the deciding vote. As in favour, the motion passes. Thank you. The motion is carried. Item number 4, Nature Strip Guideline and Specifications 2024, a topic which we're actually very excited about in Council and the community. Moved by Councillor Maloney, thank you. Seconded by Councillor Wilkinson. Councillor Maloney.
Thank you, Mayor Sullivan. That was a bit of a nail-biter, wasn't it? I couldn't be more delighted to bring this report. We have a report currently before us that is endorsing the draft Nature Strip Guideline and Specification, version 9, so you know we've been at work. We have had a number of briefings about this, constituents discussion. A lot of people want to create increased biodiversity in the plantings that they have on their front nature strip, which is council land. However, we maintain it. We mow the lawns, and currently it's looking a bit boring. So there was a request when I first kicked off my councillor role to look at this, and now here it is. I feel like it's Christmas. We have had a number of requests to plant alternative things to the current coverings, which are grass and gravel, snow, which is culminated in this report. So the current report that's for us is aiming to create beautiful, biodiverse and sustainable nature strip gardens in our beautiful city of Greater Geelong. And I'll leave it to my other councillors to comment on it. However, I think there are a few points to note in the report that are really important for constituents to have a look at. And those are the notion that we might register our gardens. There's an item indicating that, so I'd like your feedback on that as a mechanism for reporting on it. The prohibition of pesticides, which are close to guttering, I guess, on a nature strip. The media coverage within 600 millimetres clearance of the gutter, which is about 2 foot. Also, what's in and what's out of your responsibility as a homeowner or renter. There's a few limitations in this draft guideline, which includes the limitations around the corners and traffic lights and crossings of some description. I can't remember which. Also, the definition of the standard nature strip, which isn't very biodiverse and is water intensive. So perhaps there's some constituents out there that would like to comment on that, but I'll leave it to my fellow councillors to discuss.
Thank you, Councillor Maloney. Councillor Wilkinson.
Thank you. This is absolutely fantastic, and it's a great opportunity for us to create these biodiversity corridors, these little strips that run through our neighbourhoods. This has been a very long time coming, as stated, and I encourage the community to get involved and really engage with this in providing feedback. For me, for example, while we're trying to cool down our environment, I would advocate there is no place for plastic grass, and synthetic turf is still submitted as an option for a surface. But it's really, the details are there. It's really, really important for you to get involved. It opens the opportunity for gardens that have that produce food. There's a focus on Indigenous gardens. There's time spent outside with the neighbours and talking to them about what you're planting. Maybe there's an opportunity, a business opportunity, to actually provide support to garden other people's nature strips. I don't know, just a thought. But yeah, very excited about this, and please get involved.
Thank you, Councillor Wilkinson. Deputy Mayor Aiken.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Look, some of the councillors and also the officers have worked really hard on this over the last 4 years. And I'm really pleased that some of the principles that the councillors actually requested have been adopted in the proposed policy. One of the important ones is that we always spoke from the beginning that this should be a registered process, not a permitted process. And there's a big difference with that. Requesting a permit was actually saying that you were wanting a right to actually do something and council would grant it to you. We've chosen a registration process for this, so in other words, you can actually go and do it, and you just have to register with the council that you're actually going to take advantage of having a nature strip garden. And one of the driving forces for us over 4 years ago was actually the food opportunity that could exist with our nature strips. It was recognised that social cohesion at a localised level was something that the council could generate through establishing gardens on nature strips, and if those gardens had edible products in them as well too, it would really create some local social interaction. And also importantly, for those parts of our community that don't have good nutrition and have capacity to actually grow food and see how you can actually grow your own food, it means you'll be exposed to it with a nature strip garden as well too. And I should say, we are trying to also balance the responsibility associated with it as well too. We're not encouraging people to go out and plant ornamental apple and pear and apricot trees on their nature strips. We are recognising that nature strips still are public areas and public realm. There is concern about access, people with mobility access and how they get past these areas and the gardens, and there is a balance in the guidelines that have been presented as well too. And we also have had good engineering responses as well too, that car doors will still need to be opened over nature strips, and there are some guidelines about what heights you have on areas where there are parked vehicles and other things. So the guidelines are quite comprehensive. I thank the officers that have been involved in this, those that have both left and those that are still with us today. And I think this particular guideline will actually end up being a benchmark that other councils around Australia will use as well too. So Geelong should be recognised for the significance of this particular policy position as well too that it's adopted.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Aiken. Councillor Mason.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I was in Coburg recently visiting a friend, and I was really amazed to see a beautiful suburban nature strip with thriving native ground covers. There were small herbs, wallaby grasses, atriplex, berry saltbush, inadia, hibbertia, pelargonians, carcalla, Lamandras, Dianellas, Myoporum, Canidia, and many more. No monoculture exotic kikuyu grass was to be seen. No watering was necessary because these plants are adapted to local conditions. So I'm very pleased we're going to try the same here, and I'm very pleased that Councillor Manoni, who initiated this quite a few years ago, this is coming to some fruition through the collaboration of other councillors and many council officers. So I do congratulate everyone for the work done and the management solutions in developing nature strip guidelines, rather than seeing this problem as being all too hard. And so there was, as Councillor Aitken mentioned, wide consultation, including within the institution, integrity, risk, community and safety regulation, parks and natural assets, city works and property procurement and assets, and many other authorities. And as has already been said, the draft policy allows curbside space for car doors and alighting passages, height limits of 500 millimetres, and access for services. This all enhances our environmental resilience and provides more food for specialised native birds and complements the city's 1 million trees strategy with a more comprehensive and diverse natural ecosystem with biolinks. Mr Mayor, this draft is well researched and will comply with all current legal and planning criteria. I support the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Mason. Any councillors wish to speak? Councillor Contell.
Just thank you, Mr Mayor. Just to clarify that we're not actually adopting the report as such in terms of the implementation, more so that it goes out for public consultation, and so it's important that people and the community feed back to us their thoughts, both if they're in favour or other, so that we can take on board that feedback, and if we need to amend or change this, that we've got an opportunity to do so with good community feedback.
Absolutely agree. Any other councillors? I'll just say a few words. I'm terribly excited this is coming before us. It really adds to, one of the major things we do here is run how we operate our open spaces. And when we are trying to be smarter, trying to be clever, trying to be more creative with our urban design, more sustainable living, we have to recognise that our nature strips are part of the open and available space that we do have as part of a community to utilise. So something like this that will enable us to increase biodiversity, possibly even all the native plants and creatures we could have there. If it is adopted, I think we'll see some fantastic changes across the entire municipality. But it is something that we have to do well. We have to do right the first time. We don't want to see any negative side effects of this. And I believe we've got a fantastic report here that's been well researched, well presented, and I will be supporting this motion. So other councillors to speak. I will go to Councillor Maloney to close.
Thanks, Ms Sullivan, and thank you to everyone who's commented, and also to the officers for the massive amount of work that's been done in this space. I would like to encourage constituents to respond to this guideline, give us a thumbs up, thumbs down, or give us some advice as to how we should proceed. The previous item that we just adopted had a 3.6 something% response rate from constituents, and I'd like to see a lot more than that. I'd like to see our community engage as to what you'd like to see, and really bring that to the fore, so that we can know exactly if we're on the right track or not. And with that, I'll put it to back to the Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, I'll put to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. All those against? The item passes. Right, item number 5 is Social Housing Program and Next Steps. For this we have moving it Deputy Mayor Aitken and Councillor Wilkinson. Thank you. Councillor Hathaway?
Mr Mayor, I've also got an amendment for this motion.
Thank you. Councillor Hathaway, do you like to read out your amendment?
Thank you. So I would like to amend point 1. So it would read, point 1 authorises the Chief Executive Officer to seek a registered housing association partner through a request for quote for 120 Purnell Road, Corio, with the following specified conditions. 1.1, that the land remains the property of the City of Greater Geelong. 1.2, that any development consists entirely of social housing and or community assets or infrastructure.
Thank you, Councillor Hathaway. Do you have a seconder for this? Being Councillor Mason, thank you. Councillor Hathaway, do you wish to speak to your alternative, your amendment?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I think there's been a lot that's been happening in the news quite recently, but I guess for some time now around the housing crisis. But for me, in recent weeks, I think what's really driven this home is a spate of, I guess, high-profile instances of family violence. And we know the importance of having social housing and places for people to go when experiencing family violence. As someone who works in the mental health sector, we know the importance of having social housing or wraparound services for people living with mental health conditions, disability, other chronic health issues, substance and addiction issues. So we know that this is a big issue and that the City of Greater Geelong, we wish we could, but we're not going to have the bucket of money or the magic wand to fix the whole problem. But anything we can do in this space, I think, is a step in the right direction. In discussions with community members, particularly going to Real Deal forums, one thing that I have heard really clear is the desire for council to retain assets around land. It just gives us a bit more control over these projects and oversight of what may go ahead, and to ensure, as the amendment suggests, that any development on council land would be 100% for community good, whether that's all social housing or for community use. So just to avoid a situation where we might get 5 units built and 1 goes to social housing and the rest are affordable or private rental. But yeah, I'll keep it short because I'm sure all councillors are aware of the housing crisis, and I could wax lyrical about it all night, but I will refrain.
Thank you, Councillor Hathaway. Councillor Mason.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I appreciate the opportunity to support this amendment. Yes, we're all sadly aware of the shortage of social housing in Geelong, and we're going to need another 9,000 social housing dwellings within the next 16 years. It's really important that we go ahead with this, and I think that it's really important that we retain our control over city land, and I think that this is a well-conceived amendment. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mason. Do other councillors wish to speak to the proposed amendment? If not, because there's no right to reply on this, I'll put the proposed amendment to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. All those against? The proposed amendment has become the substantive motion on the floor. Councillor Aiken.
As the mover, I'm happy to accept the amendment, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Look, when, and speak in favour of the new substantive motion, so, look, housing actually is the biggest issue that our community is actually facing in Australia and around the world in a number of industrialised countries. And the reality is we developed what we thought was a really good response and a significant change response in Geelong, which was the Geelong Social Housing Plan in 2020. That plan was a 20-year plan, and it actually identified that we had to establish 3,500 homes in Geelong just to cater for our own needs. That's not Victoria, that's not Australia, that's how many new social housing homes to cover disability, to cover affordability, to cover people who cannot have mental health and other rough sleepers, capacity to actually have a roof over their head. And sadly, since 2020, we've actually built none as the council. We've actually participated zero. And we are now so far behind with the need in our community that Homes Victoria in 2020 had a waiting list of just over 5,000 people. It's now 7,800 in Geelong. And if you're on that particular waiting list, that means you're actually the most crucial in terms of trying to find housing, because it means you don't have a house and you have renting and other affordability issues as well too. So look, this resolution tonight isn't going to solve the housing problem in Geelong, but what's important is that it actually progress and moves forward what this council wants to do about social housing. We do want to be a direct provider in this issue. We've identified 3 sites. One of those is ready to go ahead, and that's what this motion actually is really saying tonight. But importantly, Councillor Hathaway has reflected what the community has also said to us. One of the cornerstones of that policy was actually any community assets that were put into the future provision of social housing should remain under community ownership. And the model that was presented was a land trust, that commitment was significant because it made it much easier for the council group and others to actually say we can commit community assets towards this issue because the community is going to retain ownership of that particular site location. So what I do want to acknowledge, I want to thank Executive Director of Placemaking, Tennille Bradley, for trying to push this issue through for us, and I acknowledge the work that she's put forward to actually say, let's actually look at this site in isolation and try and get something done as quickly as possible as a council. But it doesn't actually restrict us as a council to say we are committed to the original principles of the social housing plan. And not only do we want to see this site, personally I actually want to see multiple sites in the city of Greater Geelong that actually become social housing and start addressing what is the most significant issue that we have in our community in Geelong.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Aiken. Councillor Wilkinson.
Yep, absolutely. We need to action this site and it needs to remain in council hands, and we need to explore more, we need to explore other sites identified. And further, we need to continue to review potential sites. So a few weeks ago, I met with members of the Springdale Neighbourhood Centre down in Drysdale. And there is a growing population of older women, not surprising, over the age of 55. That's the demographic of people finding themselves homeless that's spiking every day. Women who may have experienced family violence, financial instability, a change in their family situation, have limited capacity, and yeah, there is a growing number of homelessness on the Bellarine. So, and right across Geelong. So there is need for action. There is need for the work that we can do as council, but for advocacy for state and federal funding, because yes, we stalled in terms of City of Greater Geelong, but so have the other governments. It's time for action, and it's the only way that we're going to reduce what is an incredible demand for social housing and a crisis that could be foreseen decades ago.
Thank you, Councillor Wilkinson. Any councillors who wish to comment? Councillor Hathaway.
Sorry, I can't resist. I would just like to, take a moment to speak to the whole motion. I was really proud as a Corio resident that of those 3 addresses that went out for community consultation, the most favourable response was from residents out in the north to the idea of having more social housing. And I think that likely speaks to, a lot of people that live out in the northern suburbs that have had that benefit of having social or public housing, or of having family members that have accessed that, and they know the difference it makes having a stable roof and being able to afford accommodation. But to echo the Deputy Mayor's comments, I certainly wouldn't want this to be the end of the journey. I think it's great to get a win on the board. But, council has plenty of other assets, and the housing affordability issue isn't unique to the northern suburbs. So I definitely think we need to be pursuing all avenues. I guess just to add to my earlier comments, when I moved the amendment, I was speaking about some of the most marginalised groups, or the people that stereotypically we might think of as being homeless or sleeping rough. But increasingly we're hearing from services across Geelong that, as Councillor Wilkinson mentioned, older women who are employed are now sleeping out of their cars. We're hearing of dual income families, of both parents working, now sleeping out of their cars with their kids because they can't afford rent in Geelong. So it's really not overstating it that it's a housing affordability crisis. when we're at this point where working families can't afford to live. And it's a housing affordability crisis. There's no shortage of housing out there. It's just that people are locked out and priced out, and the more social housing we build, it's going to put pressure and lower those costs for people. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hathaway. There's no further councillors to comment. I'll go back to Deputy Mayor Aiken to close.
Further to add, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. All those against? The item is carried. All right. Item number 6, the Draft Economic Development Plan 2024-2034. This is moved by Deputy Mayor Aiken, seconded by Councillor Mason.
I have an amendment to put forward.
Thank you. Councillor Harwood, what is your amendment?
It's for part 2 of the original recommendation, and that is part 2 is requests the Chief Executive Officer, CEO, to explore the opportunities, strengths and weaknesses and establish an Economic Development Advisory Board, and that the CEO prepare an options report for the August 24th Council meeting.
Thank you. I'm happy to second that one. Councillor Harwood, would you speak to it?
I think it's pretty self-explanatory, Mr. Mayor. We've had a brief discussion in relation to the Economic Development Plan, and I support the discussion in relation to a potential Economic Development Advisory Board and what function that may undertake and what benefit that may bring to council as a whole and also therefore the community. Thank you.
Absolutely, I agree. Couldn't say it better. Any other councillors wish to comment on the proposed alternative? If not, I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. All those against? The alternative passes and has become the substantive motion. Deputy Mayor Aiken, do you accept the alternative motion?
Thank you. I'm happy to accept the amendment as the mover of the substantive motion, Mr. Mayor, and speak to the now complete motion, which includes the amendment as well too. Look, the draft economic development plan for Geelong is actually the future for us for the next 10 years, from 2020 to 2034. It celebrates our past, and it also, what it does, it identifies what our future should be for the next 10 years as well too in Geelong. It entrenches that the Geelong economy is actually built on a very unique basis. It's actually extremely diverse, and we have an extremely diverse economy in Geelong in terms of the different sectors, but we also have a diverse environment as well too, and that environment is shaping what has happened in the past and will shape what happens for the future as well too. And when I say by that, the reality is Geelong is a port city, Geelong is a rail city, Geelong is a road city, Geelong is an urban city, Geelong is a rural production city, Geelong is a coastal city, and Geelong is a hinterland city. And collectively, when you put all of those together, you actually see why we are the envy of so many other places in Australia and around the world. And in fact, this economic development plan, for the first time ever, actually identifies all of those different diverse economic ecosystems that exist in Geelong. And as a consequence, this plan actually is very, very good. It's probably one of the best I've seen in the last 25 years that when we've been involved in trying to actually put forward a future for our economic development in Geelong. And that's why I said it's respectful of the past. I mean, so there's some really good elements in this. It actually talks about smart manufacturing. You know, if you actually tried to develop this plan 10 years ago, we wouldn't have been talking about manufacturing again in Geelong. If you actually talked about our environment and actually say our economy has to have a sustainable environment and create job opportunities, we wouldn't have said that 15 to 10 years ago, but today we actually are saying that in this particular plan as well too. And to our rural production sector, what's really, really important, this plan actually says that it is an important component of our future in Geelong, and that is we do have a capacity to be able to use our road, rail and airport facilities to actually create food and production opportunities associated with our economy. So I encourage the community to have a look at this economic plan. This actually is all about council acknowledging it does have a leadership and a collaborative responsibility in terms of the future economy of Geelong, and this economic development plan actually gives us the best foot forward to be able to do that, Mr Mayor.
Well said, Deputy Mayor Aiken. Councillor Mason.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I was really pleased to attend the Geelong Manufacturing Council Technology and Innovation Summit last week. It was a good touchstone and reality check for our City of Greater Geelong Economic Development Plan. And on this measure, I think we came out tops. And we certainly have put careful thought into our economic sustainability. And as Councillor Aiken's already said, this includes not only business, but social and environmental criteria as well. In both cases, optimum collaboration is key, and that's why I'm pleased that our amendment was successful. So I also want to thank Tennille and all of the team for the creative and energetic approach to this city's economic development plan. It certainly has had a long gestation period, having first commenced in 2021. And there's already been extensive community engagement with over 100 businesses, industry, agribusiness and representative groups with key stakeholders. And there'll, as I said, need to be ongoing collaboration with all of them. And that's why I eagerly await further community input before we reconsider and finalise this plan. As has already been said, we're living through a dynamic period of exceptional population and economic growth, and Geelong is one of the fastest job growth of all Australian regional cities. Nevertheless, there are many challenges and opportunities ahead of us, and we have to be careful to ensure our plan looks carefully at these in a sustainable way, sustainably from all angles, where we have a capable workforce with jobs to fit and with livable financial and environmental security. And we've noted some barriers, some of which we really must overcome: lack of affordable housing and socio-economic disadvantage, traffic congestion, lack of public transport, unexpected changes in lifestyle, such as COVID and new technology, climate change and biodiversity degradation, and limited arts and museum facilities. All of these issues are given consideration in our plan. I'll leave it at that, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Mason. Open up for councillors to comment. Councillor Harwood.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. It's, for me, I guess, having a keen interest in the economic development of council for a long time, it's really pleasing to see this plan come forward and, I guess, create a path to the future. I've always considered that councils actually don't create employment. The market does that. That actually dictates what jobs are going to be coming on in time and what are going to be sustainable for the present. But COG does play an important role in the influencing, advocating, partnering, obviously with G21, the Chamber, Committee for Geelong, etc., well documented. Facilitating, this is where we actually do play a big role. We have the Small Business Festival, which is really well attended and has provided huge support for emerging businesses in the past. Also, probably the biggest area we have influence is around planning and the capacity for council to look at where potential employment precincts may go and existing precincts that may need to expand or similar, and also cognizant of what the community expects to see in relation to growth of employment opportunities around their particular regions. Obviously, the GREP area in the north was specifically designed to create employment, and it is doing that. It has had a slow take-up in certain areas, but you can see the growth out there, and we still have enormous opportunity and capacity out in the north. And in the south, in the Armstrong Creek region, we have the Western Industrial Precinct, where more towards the old Boral site in that particular area. So again, Geelong has huge potential in relation for economic development growth. And I think the other thing I will close on is I'd really like to see the council get entrepreneurial where possible to, again, look at opportunities that are available out there, engage with markets, engage with industries that want to come to Geelong, and be entrepreneurial about what we might be engaged in, and take a greater view of what we can do down here with our current assets and our capacity and our workforce down here. Thank you.
Well said, Councillor Harwood. Any other councillors to comment? Councillor Murray.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I too attended the Economic Forum with Councillor Mason at the Cardinia Park last week, and it certainly opens your eyes to what the region is capable of. And I think we get bogged down in the small stuff in Geelong. We don't celebrate what we actually have achieved. And this is the type of stuff that should be on the front page of the Geelong Advertiser. This sort of stuff, this sort of news. So over the past decade, Greater Geelong has undergone remarkable growth. Geelong is outpacing every other region in Australia, boasting the fastest population growth in Victoria, the second fastest in Australia, the largest regional economy in the state, and the fastest jobs growth of all Australian regional cities. Pretty powerful stuff. Now, we should be singing this from the rooftops. And as a council, this is what we're doing with this economic development plan. So Geelong is booming, and the role of the council in this economic development is so important. As the report elaborates on, it can influence Geelong's economic growth, advocate for new infrastructure, partnering with others to leverage our competitive strengths, facilitate small business support, market and position Geelong's competitive strengths, and by leading tourism, creative and innovative industries. So that's just a small sample of what's in this report. And with the addition of the paragraph 2 to explore an advisory board, I'm very supportive of that and what it may bring and strengthen our position. So Geelong is a city on the rise. We should celebrate it, and there's many ways to do that. And I too want to thank Tennille for your involvement in this, Tennille, for holding it back at some certain time, and then more work on it, and then bringing it to us. I think it's a great development plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Murray. Any councillors to comment? I'll just add my 2 cents that I do endorse all the words said by the councillors before me and won't go over them. We are experiencing remarkably strong growth here in the city of Greater Geelong, and there's on the backs of a lot of amazing work done by people for many, many years. It was literally 10 years ago this year that the announcement that Ford was going to shut down manufacturing in our region. It was 10 years ago this year that Alcoa announced it was going to shut down 1,000 jobs locally in the region. And what has happened, the collaboration between the private, public and knowledge sector has been phenomenal in our region in diversifying our economy, and now we have a plan before us that will take us to that next level. The economic lens on our region is meticulous. We have investors quality lining up the doors, wanting to get into our region because we are so spectacularly placed, as Deputy American has said, road, rail, port, airport. People are not looking to invest in Melbourne anymore when they bring in advanced and smart manufacturing to our shores. They're looking towards Geelong. They're looking towards a multi-skilled workforce that we have here that can be easily transitionable between a diverse array of industries that are being brought to our shores here. And this is where council really needs to take the lead role. And this is what we're doing. Studies have been put out by other organisations showing that people look to council to take a lead in this space. And this is not only how we take the lead, but how we have this item 2 here being the opportunities for the development for an advisory board so we can bring the rest of Geelong along this journey with us. This is a broad church. It takes many sailors to sail a ship. And this is what we're doing. You know, Geelong is not Sleepy Hollow anymore. We are charging forwards, and we need to make sure that we have a plan, we have a way, that we're promoting Geelong as a centre, a global centre of business and innovation. We have to take care of the small stuff, but we also need to recognise the size and scale that we are as a municipality, as a city, as a clever and creative city region, and what we are capable of. So with that, I'll throw back to Deputy Mayor Aiken to close.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Look, there's been a number of thank yous. Tenille does get the praise that she deserves, but we do also have to thank the consultant as well too. They actually did a fantastic job in working with all of the stakeholders, and in particular Councillor Mason and myself as the economic portfolio holders. And I do want to shout out to Brendan Sanderson as well too, who's the acting manager of business, industry and experience. Brendan actually did a fantastic job on this document as well too, to actually bring it together. The quality of it is exceptional, so I really encourage everybody in Geelong to have a look at it. It really is worthy of the council. It's really the council announcing ourselves that we are ready to take on the collaborative and leadership role that we should in terms of the economic future of Geelong as well too. And certainly that's part of why an advisory board of some type is important. Many people actually say it's very difficult when you come to Geelong and who do you talk to? Well, there's an opportunity here that the council can put a collaborative board together that actually brings a number of those voices together and actually make sure that we gain the benefits from the opportunities that have been identified in this policy document, and actually make sure that we don't leave anybody behind with the prosperity that Geelong clearly is going to have for the next 10 years as a prosperous community. And the reality is we're now an international economy, we're a national economy and we're a regional economy, and this plan actually identifies the responsibilities that we have in all of those areas. So thank you, Mr Mayor, and thank you to all the councillors for their wonderful support for what is a very important policy piece for the City of Greater Geelong. Yeah.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Aiken. And with that, I'll put to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. All those against? The item is carried. Item number 7 is our draft international engagement strategy. I'm happy to move that, seconded by Deputy Mayor Aiken. Building on what we've just said there before about having our draft economic development plan, which has now been passed, this report asks Council to endorse the draft City of Greater Geelong international engagement strategy, which is really not only how we analyse ourselves, but how we take Geelong to the world. As we said before, by Deputy Mayor Aiken as well, we are a regional economy, we are an economy of statewide importance, national importance and global significance as well. The world is only getting smaller, and how we position ourselves, how do we identify our capabilities, where we're currently at, and strategically analyse ways that we can expand and engage with the world around us is incredibly, incredibly important. So we have a municipality of nearly 300,000 people. Many international businesses already exist here, and many are looking to move here as well. And we need to capitalise on what is on offer out there in the world. Because when people are looking to invest in international relations, in economic relations, in cultural relations, there are plenty of opportunities out there. But how do we situation ourselves that we can draw them to us? How we can take advantage of what is offered on there, what is happening around the world, and how we can use it to improve what we do here. How can we bring world-class exhibitions? How can we bring top-level investment? How can we bring another edge to our planning and design? And how do we get that information from around the world? But how do we engage with it in a way that isn't wasting our time? As I said, let's be meticulous, let's be strategic, and let's approach the world on the level that we, as Greater Geelong, deserve to be on. So I'm happy to move this. Deputy Mayor Aiken.
Thank you very much, Mr Mayor. I think what we've learnt in Geelong over the last probably 5 years is that we just don't have one engagement bubble. The reality is it's a jigsaw piece, and there's the international jigsaw piece, there's the national jigsaw piece, there's the state, and there's the local. And what this one is, this is actually an international jigsaw piece. And why is it important? Well, the reality is we are a UNESCO City of Design. And that's actually an international engagement program for the City of Greater Geelong, how we're actually behaving as an international citizen. And therefore, we do have to have an engagement strategy that says how are we going to operate in the international world that we're part of, and how are we actually going to grow that and nurture it and actually assist the broader community of Geelong to get the benefits associated with our international engagement opportunities. What is touching for me is that a number of our historic sister city relationships now have a formal structure under this proposed strategy. And that's fantastic, because before we inherited them when the city of Greater Geelong was created in 1992, and we actually have given them no respect that they deserve. And the reality is that those sister cities are looking at us again because we are a UNESCO City of Design. They actually are saying we are a sister city with Geelong, which has international prominence now because of our designation with UNESCO. So this strategy is another piece of the jigsaw puzzle and does deserve support of the council so that we can put all the pieces together to actually create the framework and the engagement strategy that Geelong deserves, so that we operate in all the sectors that we've identified as a community that wants to be known internationally, wants to be known nationally, wants to be known on a state and regional basis. And this is the international jigsaw piece, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Aiken. Open up for councillors. Councillor Wilkinson.
Thank you. I also attended a seminar quite some time ago with Councillor Cadwell and a number of other councillors called Futures Geelong. And a question was asked, how do you want, in 5-10 years' time, how do you want Geelong to be seen? How would you like Geelong to be seen, both nationally and internationally? And the two issues that came up, or the two factors, were both sustainability and community. And I feel like those two, at the essence of this international engagement strategy, at the essence of really thought through clever and creative investment moving forward. It's really capitalising, but also really caring for both the people and the environment in which we live.
Thank you, Councillor Wilkinson. Councillor Cadwell.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. In regards to this report, I think until we can actually get the basics right, I don't think we should actually be focusing our attention or our resources on international travel or even international relations. I think actually we should be leaving that up to the experts in the federal government. I do note that in the report there's the diversion of some council resources away from what I think is the main game, which is looking after the needs and interests of local residents. Just this week, in fact, I drove around my ward, as I regularly do, and I noted several issues that council needs to address, things that people talk to me about all the time. Dumped rubbish, graffiti, road reserves needing mowing, potholes and footpaths that need repair, playground facilities that need upgrading to meet the needs of local kids, parents and grandparents. I do think that our community wants and expects us to get those basics right before we focus or spend money on anything else. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cadwell. Any councillors to speak before we close it up? Councillor Murray.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Look, I'm supportive of this. I think it's a great strategy, and it follows on from the economic strategy that we spoke about just earlier. What it says is Geelong is open for business, and not just locally or state, but internationally. And I think we've got to take the blinkers off and see what's out there. And this is a great way, and this strategy is a great way to support that. It ensures the strategy is purposeful. It contributes to major initiatives in the council plan, economic development strategy and advocacy framework, and of course leverages our UNESCO City of Design designation. It positions Geelong as an international business hub, fostering innovation, sustainability and resilient communities. So I'm supportive of this international engagement strategy, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Murray. Councillor Mason.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. In addition to all of what's been said, we do have international obligations, and we already have established relations with three sister cities. in Japan, China and East Timor, Izumo Otsu in Japan, the Yong'an in the Jiangsu province of China, and Vikeki in East Timor. Do we just ignore these relationships? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mason. Yeah, there's plenty of priority partners which are listed in here. South Korea, yep. Councillor Contel.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll keep mine rather short because there's already been a significant amount of dialogue on this, but I agree with Councillor Cadwell that we really just need to be sticking to the basics at the moment in our core business. We already talked about the challenges that we have in terms of achieving our budget, not only the expenditure and expense, but also delivering on the capital side of that. We talked about the challenges that we have with social housing and the burden of work that we still have to deliver in that space. And then, of course, there is the significant discussion and concern around cost of living and people's ability to afford just the basics. I think for the time being, at least, our focus also needs to be on the core deliverables of what I see as council being our basic infrastructure. So I won't be supporting this report tonight.
Thank you, Councillor Contel. Councillor Hathaway.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I have similar sentiments to Councillor Contalge and Councillor Cadwell. You know, I think based on some of the comments we heard tonight about the draft budget going out to the community and how close we are in terms of going into deficit if there's a major weather event, and hopefully we're not heading for another one. But it was only a couple of years ago where we had, you know, 2 major flooding events. Certainly the northern suburbs copped it twice, and I'm sure other areas of Geelong did as well. And, you know, whether we agree or not, my sense is there's a widespread community perception out there that we're not happy. They're not happy with the level of maintenance of current assets. They're not happy with the current services. Like, you only need to look in any Facebook group and there's constant comments about potholes and footpaths and let alone some of the other services that we deliver. You know, I'm not for being isolationist. I actually consider myself an internationalist in terms of politics, so I understand this appears to be a contradiction. But, you know, this for me is in the nice to have basket. Like, if we weren't under such pressure for this budget, if we could be delivering all the things at the level that we want to be delivering them, I would be all in for this and allocating resources. But I just don't feel like we're there. You know, I'm not saying that we should be, you know, tearing up existing international relations. I guess my question is, at this point, does it require a strategy to this degree and further resources that I don't think we have at this point? So I'll leave it there.
Thank you, Councillor Hathaway. Councillor Harwood.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I guess my view is, as we've spoken about earlier in the evening, about our commitment to the community. We've had the budget discussion and we've talked about our core functions, but you can't ignore the fact that the world has shrunk in relation to how we communicate, how we engage, how we do our business, and whether we like it or not, we are in a global market in every aspect. And to not have a plan for that or a strategy would probably be to the detriment of the community overall. And I use the examples of the Australian Animal Health Laboratory out in East Geelong, literally 3 kilometres out of the CBD, where CSIRO is based as well. And the work they do there there's only 3 or 4 in the world of that Centre for Diseases Control Centre there. And it's an amazing facility that does incredible work that is recognised globally and is often the first point of call when there is a breakout, particularly around zoonotics, the transmission of disease from animals to humans. And just remember when we had the Hendra virus with horses, aviation flu, swine flu, etc., bird flu. There was a number of issues in more recent times, and Geelong became a real focus about how these diseases would actually be attacked. Then we actually created the Geelong Centre for Emerging Infectious Diseases. So we've been an absolute global leader in that space alone. We export food and produce overseas. We're looked at on that global market. And our university has become a global university. And our highest intake of students is from overseas, through Asian and Indian markets and around. So I think to have an international engagement strategy is just common sense. There is no downside to it. It doesn't mean we're not focusing on the bread and butter of council. Of course we are, but I think it's still a wise move to also be cognizant of what we actually do here, what we can do, and what the rest of the world sees in Geelong and its opportunities down here. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Harwood. With all that said, Councillor Maloney.
Thanks, Mayor Sullivan. I was going to comment on this, but I do think that Geelong is becoming a very much more internationalised place, and in my recent travels for the transportation study tour, I realised that Geelong isn't on most people's maps. Geelong is where's that? It's next to Melbourne or something to that effect. So I think that we have come a long way to build the momentum, and I don't want that to cease. I also think that it is important to recognise that probably no one else could do it better. I don't really have much faith in national or state tourism bureaus to encourage investment and growth for commercial interests in our pretty city. I think that we know it well. We can do this well, and I think that without a plan or a strategy, we're setting ourselves up to fail. So I commend this, and I think that perhaps we need to reach out to other communities as well, perhaps through the MAV, as to how we can get smaller community councils on the map from Victoria as well. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Maloney. Very well said. Most comments have been made. I did open, but this strategy before us, I believe, is very well thought out. It builds on our economic development strategy. It builds on our advocacy framework in terms of how it is a piece of the puzzle. For advocacy, we work regionally, state, nationally, internationally. This is another piece of that puzzle. And a part of it as well is to maximise and uphold existing commitments with international designations and partnerships agreements. We're already in this space. How can we do it better as well? And we should always be aiming to do better, to improve what we're already doing. We must never rest on our laurels. So with that, I'm happy to commend this to the vote. All those in favour? Oh, sorry. Oh, sorry, my apologies. It was you, wasn't it? Sorry, I thought I already spoke. I apologise. Deputy Mayor Aiken, I was getting ahead of myself.
Never denied Councillor Aiken an opportunity to speak, Mr Mayor.
That's it, all right. Please, apologies.
Look, I want to thank all the councillors for the debate on the particular issue, and I want to acknowledge that it is difficult for a number of councillors. And I disagree with the position that they've actually reached, because the reality is we can do both.
So, Deputy Mayor Aiken, if I may, I actually moved this item at the start. You seconded it.
Sorry?
I moved the item at the start, so that was me closing. You seconded this item.
Yeah. So. Oh, okay. I did too. There we are.
See, it seems we're both very keen to be involved in this.
Sorry,
okay?
Mr Mayor. I'll let you chair the meeting.
I appreciate that. Thank you. All right. Order. All right. So I have closed. Thank you for your additional comments there, Deputy Mayor Aiken. With that, I'll put to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. All those against? The item is carried.
It does actually start working. Fantastic. I'd like to call for a division, please.
Yep, absolutely. A division is called. All those in favour? That was Deputy Mayor Aiken, Mayor Sullivan, Councillor Mason, Councillor Wilkinson, Councillor Murray, Councillor Harwood, Councillor Maloney. All those against was Councillor Hathaway, Councillor Cadwell, Councillor Contel. Thank you. All right. Item number 8 on the agenda is International Travel Attendance UCCN 2024 Conference and AGM. This is moved by Deputy Mayor Aiken and seconded by Councillor Mason. Deputy Mayor Aiken.
Thank you very much, Mr Mayor. Look, we've just adopted our international engagement strategy, and this actual report is to actually put forward the opportunity for the Mayor and an officer to actually fulfil our responsibilities under the city of design opportunity. The annual general meeting for UNESCO Creative Cities Network is actually going to be in Braga in Portugal from the 1st to the 5th of July this year. We've been a couple of times. In fact, when Councillor Harwood was the mayor, he has attended twice on behalf of the council to UNESCO Cities of Design. COVID did stop the opportunity, and last year, in fact, there was political turmoil in Turkey, which meant that the AGM couldn't go ahead and individuals could not attend that particular meeting. I think it is important that Geelong fulfils its responsibilities associated with the City of Design. This is a very competitive international opportunity to participate in engagement and having a branding of such significance. We are the only City of Design in Australia. We have a unique position to actually leverage that. It actually is bringing international attention to us as a city. And in fact, the cost, when you actually look at the amount of funds that are being spent on it, is minimal for the return that we're actually going to get for it. So I don't see this as an expenditure. I actually see this as investment and as a responsibility that we have as councillors to fulfil our global and international relationships that we deserve to do this in Geelong. Geelong's a great place. We should be known of world significance, and this is a great opportunity for the mayor to actually go over and actually promote and make sure that Geelong gets the attention and the credit that it certainly deserves. We shouldn't just be shouting about Geelong with our own boundaries. We should be shouting out Geelong at every opportunity we can, and here's one to do it over in Portugal.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Aiken. Councillor Mason.
Thank you, Mayor Sullivan. As we've said a number of times tonight, we've got key primary drivers for our city strategies. One is our vision for Greater Geelong, a clever and creative future. This was originally constructed through extensive consultation with over 16,000 residents in 2016-17. This vision included business innovation, diversity, universal digital access, active street culture, sense of community, and a sustainable social, economic and natural environment. Key elements were also attraction of international visitors, interested in events, landscapes, festivals and food, business, and with that global outlook, another key driver is our status as a UNESCO City of Design and consequent membership of the City Creative Cities Network. All of these elements are embedded in many strategic and operational documents. There's depth in our vision, and we do need to network. The fact that we didn't attend the last conference, for good reasons, provides an even stronger necessity to attend this time. We must walk the talk. We need to fulfil our agreed responsibilities. And one of those responsibilities is, as a Secretariat of the Geelong City of Design, we do have specific obligations, including mandatory attendance at the AGM and sub-network meetings, periodic reporting on projects and collaborations, and active participation in City of Design team meetings. And our membership and current status has already generated a lot of international interest in Geelong, and that means jobs for those unemployed and jobs for aspiring graduates. The $13,000 travel cost is a very powerful investment. It'll bring manifold dividends and, as I just said, jobs with new industries. Under the youthful scheme of the conference, this year's mayors from creative cities will gather to promote sustainable urban development through culture and creativity. The conference will provide member cities with a platform to share knowledge, experiences and good practices towards building sustainable cities of tomorrow. There's a comprehensive working agenda and a lot of information for the Mayor and the accompanying officer, who is unlikely to be the CEO, to bring home. I strongly support the Mayor and officer representing us in the UNCCN conference in Braga and Covilhã in Portugal. This is consistent with our previous motion. I look forward to reports on successful networking, developing inner-city partnerships and initiatives, new policies and strategies. And Mr Mayor, this is a good investment. It means jobs for the future, and I support the recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Mason. Open it to the floor. Councillors who wish to comment. Councillor Cadwell.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I can't support this trip for all the reasons that I've previously outlined. That's all. I'll just leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cadwell. No other, sorry. Go Councillor Harwood, then Councillor Murray.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I do support the attendance at the UNESCO 2024 conference. I guess having had the privilege of attending two in recent years, it's hard to understate how, I guess, important it is from a promotional learning experience, and having the opportunity to again put Geelong fair and square on the world stage, and that's exactly what the UNESCO conference allows. And it was what I found most interesting is in a very short period of time, the powerful impact you can have on other delegates there and their countries and their cities as such. And when you see a 2 or 3 minute vignette video of Geelong, of the beach, the bay and the bush, and you splash through that, the Deakin University and our new, environment down here and our growth, people get quite a pleasant surprise about how unbelievable Geelong looks. Then you tell the story about what Geelong does, and it's very, very powerful in that environment. And then you finish with some footage of the Great Ocean Road, where the Great Ocean Road has more visitors than the Rock on the Reef, Ayers Rock, Uluru and the Great Barrier Reef combined. The Great Ocean Road has more visitors internationally on our doorstep. So to attend such a conference where there is a gathering of like minds, all having a common theme, in our case, the city of design. And design is not just the built form. Design is about how you think about a whole range of things and how you'll design your day, how you'll design your work environment, how you design pretty much everything you do. It does help change your thinking. And I think that's one of the things that we've come to, I guess, enhance as a council. And having that particular designation puts us in a very rare category and a very, very strong one. It covers a whole range of areas. In fact, it's an unlimited area, I've found. And the experience that just because one person goes, it's not that particular person that carries the weight. It's the fact that Geelong is there at the table and is being presented, and having the discussions with others that is the powerful result. And yes, it does. They're not always tangible results we'll see. There'll be many intangibles, but it is a very worthwhile and very, very cost-effective way to put Geelong fair and square on the international map. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Harwood. Councillor Murray.
Powerful words from Councillor Harwood. You can only imagine as a mayor being overseas and you're representing your city and you're seeing up on the stage or on the screen how proud a mayor must feel about his city. And I got that feeling from Councillor Harwood then, and that's why I'm fully supportive of yourself, Mr Mayor, to go and represent this great city, this great region in Portugal. When we were awarded the UNESCO City Design designation in 2017, we knew then there was a responsibility each year to attend the AGM. And we've been through this vote many times, and I've supported each time to go to this AGM. So it's a great opportunity to represent the city. The mayors of Ballarat, Bendigo are going in their capacity. So, as I say, go Mr Mayor and sing our praises to the world.
Thank you, Councillor Murray. Any other councillors to comment? Councillor Wilkinson.
I understand that the membership of UNESCO necessitates the attendance at the AGM. It also necessitates the best principles of design. And when we look around Geelong and think about the work that our community has put in, everything from the Geelong Design Week to international students from Deakin University, sustainability projects such as the Eco Del Reef down here, and think of the fact that we've branded ourselves as clever and creative city of design. There's an accountability there. And I remember some time ago when there was some talk about ripping up the green spine, and then that call out of, oh, this would mean that we were foregoing our membership of the UNESCO City of Design. I think it's on us to continue to lean into that best principles of design, and that not just the built structure, that how do we relate, how do we connect. So yeah, I think this is a great opportunity in terms of, you know, we're on the stage, we actually just need to perform and play.
Thank you, Councillor Wilkinson. If there's no other councillors to comment, I'll say a few words, and I do endorse the words of everybody who's been said before me, and I understand the views and opinions everybody have. Being on council since 2017, I've endorsed mayors to be the council's representative overseas, representing Geelong on the UNESCO world stage. And each time they've come back with some fantastic reports that have been well written and bring a very wide breadth of ideas and world standard practices that we wish to apply right here in our part of the great globe. The main reason that we attend UNESCO AGM is that all that we gain from UNESCO, being a city of design, all the economic development, all the international delegates, Geelong Design Week, sustainable projects, the EcoDAO, the international recognition we get for some amazing things that we are doing here, it's incredible. And it does put us on that stage and gives us access to this international network of world-class cities where we can bring best practice to have sustainable, thriving cities of design. And all they require from us is that once a year we go and report at the AGM that we are upholding our end of the deal. What we are doing here to not only earn our mark as UNESCO Creative City Design, but to improve it. Because gaining the designation is really just the first step. It's what you do with it post that. And as councillors have said, if we don't, we're in breach of our contract. And UNESCO can strip us of our title of a UNESCO City of Design. And we can't let that happen. There's so much great work being done within our municipality that we have to uphold our end of the deal. You know, we've built Geelong's brand, our skill base, around being a clever and creative UNESCO City of Design. It's what we're most proud of, it's what we must move forward with. We can either be Sleepy Hollow, or we can put ourselves forward. Where do we want to be? And this is the direction I believe that we all want to be in. So with that, I'm happy to throw back to Deputy Mayor Aiken to close.
Mr. Mayor, look, my only closing comments are, I actually think there's confusion and there's a lack of understanding where this has actually come from. The reality is that clever and creative actually came from the Geelong community. Like UNESCO City Design didn't come first. What happened was we actually created a vision and 20,000 members of the Geelong community participated in developing that vision. And then you know what the vision was? They said, we want Geelong to be known internationally as clever and creative. So the community actually told us that's what they wanted us to do. And a way in which the council responded to that vision was they said that we have to look for opportunities of how we can implement that desire of the community. And one of those very strong ones was to actually be part of the UNESCO City of Design. That's how we could actually fulfil the community's ambition to be seen as clever and creative. So this has actually been community driven and it has been community led, and we are fulfilling the Geelong community's responsibilities by actually participating in UNESCO City of Design and also making sure that we are a proud member of that as well too, because our community actually demanded of us in terms of its vision for the Geelong community.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Aiken. With that, I'll put to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. All those against? The item is carried.
my microphone working. If I could call for a division on that item, please.
Absolutely. So all those in favour was Deputy Mayor Aiken, Mayor Sullivan, Councillor Mason, Councillor Wilkinson, Councillor Murray, Councillor Harwood, Councillor Maloney. All those against was Councillor Hathaway, Councillor Cadwell, Councillor Contell. Thank you. All right, item 9 on the agenda. Proposed sale of Part 43, the Boulevard, Nor Lane. Moved by Councillor Hathaway, seconded by Deputy Mayor Aiken. Councillor Hathaway.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So this report recommends Council open community engagement on a proposal to sell part of 43 the Boulevard, Nor Lane. The city is proposing to sell approximately 5,000 square metres of public open space from the 12,500 square metre site to the Watherong Aboriginal Cooperative. The property abuts the cooperative site at 60 to 62 Morgan Street, North Geelong, and would be incorporated into a planned redevelopment of its facilities to centralise its services. The Watherong Aboriginal Cooperative requires additional land to achieve their goals. The public open space includes a shared pathway, and if the land is sold, that pathway would remain on city-owned land within the road reserve. Any contract of sale would be subject to the land being rezoned, and if public consultation is supported, community members would have the option to request to present their feedback to a submissions review panel. Council would then receive a report to consider the community feedback and outcomes from the panel and make a decision on whether to sell the land or not. And I guess just to add to that further, the Watherong Aboriginal Cooperative deliver a range of services to the community out in the northern suburbs and play a really important role. They have been working on a redevelopment of their site for a long time, so would like to commend this on that basis so they can hopefully see that redevelopment proceed. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hathaway. Deputy Mayor Aiken.
Thanks very much, Mr Mayor. Look, Councillor Hathaway has actually spoken well about the proposal. The reality is that this is a vision that we should be supporting as a council, and if we actually sell this land to Watherong, they actually are going to create an incredible asset that Geelong will be very proud of, not just our Indigenous community, but actually the broader community as well too. Watherong Co-op is our traditional Aboriginal organisation in Geelong, has been around for about 40 years. This has actually been their home. This is their second home. Their first one was actually in Nor Lane, and this is their second one. But this is a really unique opportunity for the council to actually show an act of reconciliation and also partner with our Indigenous community to actually give them the opportunity to fulfil their ambitions. It will have absolute dramatic impact for them if they can fulfil their vision, and this land certainly assists them to be able to do that and further grow the unique relationship that exists between white people and black people in terms of this site location. So I encourage all councillors to actually strongly support this recommendation that we do sell the land to Watherong.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Aiken. The other councillors to comment. If there's no other councillors to comment, we'll go back to Councillor Hathaway to close.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Nothing further to add.
Thank you. With that, I'll put to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. All those against? The item is carried. Our debt management policy, item number 10 on the agenda, which is moved by Councillor Harwood. Thank you. And seconded by Deputy Mayor Aiken. Busy night. Councillor Harwood.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. We're getting into the dry area of the meeting with this one. In a nutshell, it's a mandatory review done every 4 years for council, and there's been a thorough revision done in recent times, so resulting in what we now call version 5. The Policy Review Committee endorsed the version in February this year and recommended for approval by the Executive Leadership Team in March. There's a number of key policies, key revisions to the policy. They're fairly not benign, but they're basically bringing the policy up to speed for today's climate of debt management policies. And I guess it needs to be said in relation to there's always going to be financial issues with the number of entities that COG engage with, whether it's the community, whether it's business, industries or similar. And it's important that we have a policy that is consistent and is fair. And it's also worth mentioning that COG does have a number of mechanisms to help those that we deal with who are experiencing financial difficulty, that we do have a number of mechanisms to help them through those particular periods, and hopefully we can achieve the best financial result possible. Not always, but you'd like to think that you can offer help and also try and achieve the best result. I think the main point for me is actually adjusting the frequency of debt management reporting from quarterly to monthly, which will again increase the the transparency and also the the accountability of the policy. So I'll leave it there for the moment. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Harwood. Deputy Mayor Aiken.
Mr. Mayor, when you're running a $672 million business, it means you actually do send out a lot of bills. And as a consequence, there's also a large number of people who don't pay their bills. And essentially what this is the debt management policy of how we actually recover those unpaid bills. And it is being driven by legislation change as well too. An example is for rates, we're no longer able to sue people through the court system to be able to collect rates from them. But the community that aren't paying their rates should actually understand we still have the local government ability that when you want to sell your land and your house, we're going to still collect your rates, because there will be outstanding debt associated with it that the council will still recover. But this is really just a refresh and response to those legislative changes in terms about how council actually recovers its debts that it's owed to it.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Aiken. Any other councillors to comment? Still well said. If not, Councillor Harwood.
Nothing further to add. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. All those against? The item is carried. All right, item number 11, tender C23000139. Sorry, I believe we have a conflict of interest on this one with Councillor Contel. Just step up there, mate. All right, now the Councillor Contel has left the room. Tender C23000139, Geelong Arena Facility Management. Councillor Harwood?
Seconder?
Yeah, you need a seconder in Councillor.
Oh, yeah. In a nutshell, this is quite a complex matter, and we're seeking further time to have those discussions, and I'd be seeking a deferral this evening if my fellow councillors will support that.
Absolutely. Councillor Aiken?
I also support too that additional work needs to be done with the council group in relation to this particular tender. Yeah.
All right, I'm going to put that one straight to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. Those against? The item is carried, and well, it's not carried, it's deferred. The deferral is carried. All right, tender. He's got a conflict on the next one as well. Yep. All right, so that next one is tender 240009, supply of concrete and concrete works. I'm happy to move this one, seconded by Councillor Cadwell. Thank you. This is a report seeking approval of the contract. That's up to 8 different tenderers whose names are all listed. I won't go through them all. Contract, it's essential providing the works that we do here across the municipality, with many things we look after requiring such provisions. Procurement services, facilitate an open tender process to identify contractors with necessary experience and skills. And of course, we want to make sure there's sustainable value, technical capacity, customer service, and price is important. So I'm happy to move that motion. Councillor Cadwell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think you've covered it, so I don't really have anything else to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other councillors to comment? If not, I'll just close by saying it's good to see good Geelong companies up there. And with that, I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. All those against? That item is carried. We can have Councillor Contel rejoin us. Councillors, Section 4, record of informal meetings of councillors. Can we have a mover and a seconder for the record of informal meeting of councillors? Moved, Councillor Harwood. Seconded, Councillor Hathaway. All those in favour? Thank you. All those against? That's carried. Stage 5 is planning delegations. Can we have a mover and seconder for this? Moved, Councillor Harwood. Seconded, Councillor Wilkinson. All those in favour? Thank you. All those against? That is carried. Companies have I need a move and seconder to move item 6.1 into confidential, which is the appointment of a new independent member to the CEO Employment and Remuneration Committee. I'm happy to move that one, seconded by Deputy Mayor Aiken. All those in favour? Thank you. All those against? That item is moved into confidential. All right, we are now to consider the remaining agenda items in confidential section of this meeting. Please have a mover and a seconder to close the meeting to the public so we can consider the confidential agenda item. Before we do so, you wish a suspension of standing orders? Okay, I'll grant that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to actually make the following statement. At a council planning meeting on the 14th of December last year, I made statements during that meeting which questioned the integrity of some of my fellow councillors, accusing them of not having an open mind on a planning matter before councillors that particular night. I've subsequently met with all of those councillors, and I agree that my statements on that night were wrong and disrespectful. I accept that no councillor at that meeting had a predetermined position on the planning matter. I wish to publicly retract my statements and issue an unreserved apology to all of those councillors. I wish to also state that good professional working relationships and professional, respectful relationships between councillors should be the paramount consideration when making any public statements as a councillor. And I acknowledge that my comments on that night failed that principle and was disrespectful to my fellow councillors, Mr. Mayor.
All right, thank you, Deputy Mayor Aiken. Your comments are noted. Standing orders, I believe, should be resumed now. Thank you. All right, and with that, I will close the meeting to the public. I need a move and a seconder for that. Moved by Councillor Contell, seconded by Councillor Mason. All those in favour? Thank you. All those against? That is carried. I'd like to thank both our virtual and in-person gallery members for their participation tonight. It's been fantastic to be down here in the Bellarine in Port Arlington. I hope everybody who attended got something out of it. Thank you all. Enjoy the rest of your night.